Welcome to Sharpen Your Sword Podcast, episode 27, guys. I want to start off by saying thank you for following us. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for supporting the podcast. Today on episode 27, I have a good friend of mine, Johnny Mitias. He's a white belt in jiu-jitsu, but he's a black belt in business, black belt entrepreneur, black belt wisdom. And he's going to help us. And we're going to dive deep today into his mindset. And he's going to talk to us about running a business and talk to us about his journey. Guys, the Sharpen Your Sword podcast was designed to spread value and give you guys more thoughts, more insight on personal development. Remember, just like the samurai, you have two swords, okay? In modern day, we don't have to carry two swords around to survive, literally two swords. But our two swords now are our mindset and our body, okay? And if you wake up every single day to sharpen these swords, you will become better. That's the process of sharpening the sword. That's the process of self-development, personal development, okay? And if you do a little bit every day, your swords will become sharper. You have to do something every day mentally, reading a book, listening to entrepreneurs, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, high-performing entrepreneurs, high performance people, just like I do with Mr. Johnny. These guys will push you, okay? These guys will educate you. These guys will give you wisdom, okay? And you have to sharpen your sword physically. Do jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Work out, go on a run, eat clean, have a good diet. This will make you a better person, okay? Because one day you're going to have to pull your sword, okay? And if you pull it, do you want to have a dull sword or you want to have a sharp sword? Okay, so welcome to Sharpen Your Sword Podcast, and let's welcome Mr. Johnny Mitias to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Jim. I'm really happy to be here. It's my first podcast, so I'm excited about doing this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Perfect. I'm ready to get into it. And guys, like always, we have the number one co-host in the world, Johnny Mitias.
Hey.
You should have put some music on it.
I think that's the right sound.
All right, guys. So, Mr. Johnny, I'm going to let you take over right out the gate and give us a little bit background on your family history, how you got here, how you started your profession, and where you are today.
You know, I can go way back, and I think I will, just because it's such a fascinating story. And a lot of it I didn't know until later in life. So, my parents are Syrian immigrants. My dad came over in 1956 to go to school. But let me go way back before that. So we are originally, both families, my mom's family and my dad's family, are from the island of Crete, the Greek island in the middle of the Mediterranean. And they then went, as a Greeks, to the city of Antioch, which was a Syrian city at the time, but full of Greeks. And that was several hundred years ago. And the families lived there. And then the Turks got Antioch after World War I for helping the Allies. And they kicked the Greeks out. And the Greeks then went down south to what was still Syria, into my dad's family went to Latakia on the coast, and my mom's family went to Aleppo. And then my dad, so now fast forward, my father was the son of a shoe merchant, had several stores. It was a family business. And my father wanted to go to America, which was Camelot at that time. And my grandfather said, no, you're not. You're going to take over the family business, because they had shoe stores. And my father then told him, he said, look, just let I have 5 brothers and sisters, just let them take over. And he goes, no, your brothers and sisters are idiots. You're going to have to take over the stores. And he went on a hunger strike. I didn't find out about this until I was 50 years old.
Really?
Went on a hunger strike, found out from one of my aunts. And he verified it later. Never once told me. Nobody ever told me. Went on a hunger strike for a week.
What?
And his mother, my grandmother, finally convinced my grandfather to send him to the U.S. And he wanted to learn philosophy, which was completely insane at that time. Think about it. People didn't go to college. No, Americans didn't go to college then.
Yeah.
Definitely Syrians didn't. Very few Syrians went to college. They had them. They just it was a very small percentage of the population, and usually you went to academics afterward. So he wanted to study philosophy, and my grandfather was like, "Are you kidding? There's only two things you go to study for: become a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah.
That's it. Law was not even considered a profession you go into then." So he ended up coming to the U.S. in '56, learning the language. I remember when I went to Ellis Island, where he entered. And back then, you couldn't, because of 9/11, you couldn't go into the island, but, I drove by it. And I thought, how amazing is this country? I'd already been in practice for 13 years as an orthopedic surgeon by then. And I remember my dad said, I came to the country with 2 bags. And here's his son going by Ellis Island in a boat thinking, my dad came with 2 bags. I have 2 Porsches in the garage.
Yeah.
One generation. That's America.
Yeah.
You can do this. And that even a child of immigrants, if you go to other countries, that first generation, it's tough.
Yeah.
In Europe, my dad could have done the easy thing, gone to Europe, gone to school, had a cushier life because it was like the social welfare system. They would have helped pay for it. School would have been free. He wouldn't have had to work. He struggled. So he could go to school in the U.S., which was the best schools in the world, still are, best universities in the world. But he wanted to go there. And, it made more sense after I heard about the hunger strike because my dad's a hard man. And so I was like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Of course he went on a hunger strike to get his way. And it's hard to imagine now because, he's 85 and he's very laid back. And people look at him, they can't believe the stories I say about my childhood and all that. But so that's basically, then my dad decided, and this is the old country way, called his family and said, hey, I'm ready to get married. He's finishing his PhD. So the way it's not arranged marriages, but you could not get married without consent of your families.
Yeah.
So he went there and said, and they would arrange parties and meets and then they kind of let the people just figure out who. But there was a selection process.
Yeah. Only
certain girls were selected to be allowed to visit, and the word would get out, and they were very selective on families, and it's so much different than being in the U.S. where you can marry anybody you want. No, you married a certain class of people, certain religion, not even that. It had to be like within a subset.
Yeah.
So.
The mom knows.
The mom knows. They know the families.
Dad approves of the family.
Yeah, and then they kind of just get it all arranged. And then my mom and him met and married in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and then came back, and boy, sometimes it works, and that one just was a rocky marriage from the get-go. But anyway, they got met and married and moved back and built a life. And so he was finishing his PhD. He finished it in Canada because there was a mentor he wanted to follow in philosophy. And he always thought he was going to go back to Syria, to go to academics, and be a professor. Well, and that was in 1967. That's when I was born. And he was getting ready to go back, and then the 67 war blew open.
Yep.
And everything got really unstable. Coup, and there was a coup in Syria, and the Assads took over. And he thought, well, I'll still go back. I'll wait for everything to settle down. Well, then the 1973 war. So that kept getting pushed back further and further until finally, once we became teenagers, there was no going back. And so he said, well, we're here, and we're staying here. And he would tell us growing up, we never spoke even Arabic in the house. I went to first grade and didn't know any English.
Yeah.
So we spoke Arabic in the house at that time, and English was spoken. Obviously, I was with other kids, but I went to Syria for a summer and literally came back and couldn't remember any of the English. So he said, "Oh, look, you're going to be American. Everybody here is going to be American. We're just speaking English in the house." And that was a great move in one respect. Bad because I really don't speak Arabic very well because of that. Yeah. But, he wanted, like, you're American, don't worry about it. My brothers and I have 2 younger brothers. We always considered ourselves American above everything else.
Yeah.
Very patriotic. We love the country. Not a big fan of the government, but who is, right?
He's going there.
Yeah, but who is? There's very few people that can say, well, I'm really proud of what the government does. But,
right.
But most people love America.
Yeah.
And especially first-generation immigrants.
Oh, yeah.
So my middle brother, we're all a year apart. My middle brother got a PhD in economics. And my youngest brother is an architect. So we did, been very successful in the country and been an amazing ride. As far as me personally, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, 1967. My dad, it was a different time. People forget, that being from Middle East was a tough thing for a long. It still is. Mm-hmm. But back then it was like, it was open discrimination.
Yeah.
Nobody thought anything of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when my parents, you got to think back in 1967, Jim Crow laws where they were separating blacks and whites were still there. I mean, open discrimination nobody cared.
Yeah.
Nobody thought anything of it. And they were trying to change that. So he managed to get a job as a professor at Millsaps College in Jackson. That's where I grew up. So that was an interesting upbringing.
I can imagine.
Syrian family
in the dirty South.
Deep South.
Yeah.
Very parochial. It was great in some ways. It was tough in others. But that's where I grew up with my brothers, and we went to school there all the way through.
That's a very interesting story because my dad was the first to come here, and same idea, struggle to make it here. Parents thought he was crazy and whatnot, but do you think that the immigrants have a different work ethic than the guys here?
Oh, 100%.
There's guys that work hard here.
There are, and most immigrants, I think, even now that are coming, they're probably work harder. I know.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, you have, and also where I grew up, you were either black or white, and they had their little clubs, mm-hmm. And then here we were Syrian, and then we hung out.
So you were in the middle of the Oreo.
Yeah, we were out of the whole network of people, so we were kind of isolated, not quite white, not black, and then we hung out with the Jewish kids who were also shoved to the side. So here's what's funny. In the Middle East, they're battling it out. And in Jackson, Mississippi, we hung out because we were both isolated at that point. Not isolated. It wasn't even that bad. I mean, I'm making it much more dramatic than it really was. Mm-hmm. Nobody was evil or mean. It was just, kids. Mm-hmm. And I think nowadays people would melt the microaggressions and the triggers.
Oh, I can imagine.
What just made us tougher.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a chip on your shoulder.
Character building.
Yeah, it is. And you get a chip on your shoulder, and you're like, I'm going to show them.
Yeah.
And it makes you work way harder.
Yeah.
I think if I had been fully accepted and rolled in and treated evenly, I might not have been as successful as I am.
I believe that.
Really?
Yeah.
I
believe that. I remember when I followed my dad's path. They were like street vendors. They didn't have nothing to their name. They're not going to open a business. There was nothing, no credit, nothing, no proof, finances. And they started working on the street. So they would load up a van. They would go buy from a wholesaler clothes or comfort, whatever they can get. And they'll set up on a random corner and sell. And so I grew up in a big family. So my dad was always working. He was never home. And so when we got to a certain age, and a certain age was us, like 14. We've been working, but like 14, 15, we started doing things on our own. And you don't see that these days, and people thought I was so much older. And when I got to like 17, I had a little facial hair. I remember I would be working like Forest City, Arkansas, or Brinkley, Arkansas. And people think like there's no racism. Bro, it's there until today. And people would call me like terrorists, or they would just like shout out the window of the car. Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein, whoever they want to call me. And these days, you can't even talk about it. You tell somebody, if you crack a joke with somebody like that, they're breaking down. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I do believe, like I tell people, like my skin is thick, right? Like we were at the tournament, at the AGF tournament. I was playing basketball, and one of the jiu-jitsu guys, he loves triangles. I'm not gonna say his name. And I was playing. He's like, man, I didn't know Arabs can play basketball. And I looked at him. I was joking with him, but I was acting like I was offended. I was like, what does that mean? And then I kind of dribbled away, and he comes up to me, hey, coach, did that offend you? I'm like, bro, no, I'm joking. Like my skin is thick. That doesn't bother me. It's like growing up into that. I think it was good. It's character building, like I said. And I think if you don't go through like the hard path, like your dad did, you know, then I don't know if you would see as much success in the future. Now, some people can pull it out of the bag. This is America, right? This is the land of opportunity. At the end of the day, like you said, you don't have to love the government, but this country holds more opportunity than any other country in the world. And if a freaking immigrant can do it that can't speak English, Americans that speak English have no damn excuse.
100%. I mean, I look at it as it is still, you know, it's getting harder. I get it, but it's still way better here by far than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Because if you go, I love these people who go say, you know, man, if you go to France or Germany or Scandinavia, you know, they have all these social programs. Yeah, you're going to be in, and then they're going to isolate you.
Yep.
They're going to put you in your neighborhoods, and you're not breaking in. That's why they're angry, a lot of them. Some of them are just lazy, worthless. People get it, all right. But the ones that are trying to make it cannot break in. And in the U.S., they respect hard work above everything. So if you work hard, they will give you a shot.
Yep.
They will give you a shot, and you can make your own shot. It's such a huge economy with so many options. So I mean, I love being American, and I think that anybody that I get angry when people start to talk shit about America. Yeah. Especially if they're foreign.
Yeah.
You know? Now, if you're American and you're talking shit about the government, I'm in with you. Yeah. But if you're a foreigner, I won't even let you talk shit about the government.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like, wait a minute. Let's talk about yours.
All right.
Yeah. And see all the craziness.
Right.
So, but yeah, it is still definitely the land of opportunity. And I think the shots I took just made me way tougher. And now I look back at them, I laugh, you know. But I also believe that everybody that does something special is trying to prove something to somebody.
I agree.
I don't care who it is. It's either their mom or their dad or society or their community or somebody who talks shit about them. There is somebody out there. If you don't have that, you need that to push past that points of pain in your life where you just want to give up. Yeah. And you do it a lot when we roll. You know, you want us to push to the very edge, to push past that point, because then once you push that past that point of pure exhaustion, fatigue, when you just want to lay there and let them just tap you out, if you can push past that, then everything gets a lot easier.
Yep, 100%.
I'm still trying to get there, but I can see it right close, you know.
Yep. Do you think, so you went on and became a doctor, right? Like it was funny that you said either doctor or engineer. Because I grew up, growing up, my parents were the same thing. Like, hey, you're going to school to be a doctor or an engineer.
Absolutely.
You know?
There's no other field.
There's no other option. Like, and they like foreigners, and especially in the Middle East, Arabs, you're an engineer or a doctor. Which one is it? Pick. We're not wasting our time. This is what you're going to be. Either Dr. Muhammad or engineer, Mohandas. You know what I mean? Yep. So which one is it? And that cracks me up. So you went on and you became a doctor.
Right.
Orthopedic surgeon. Did you go for that or
So, you know, here's something I love telling, the story of how I became an orthopedic surgeon. So I was 7 now and hyperactive kid. And I was I was always on the move. And my dad was watching a show on PBS, you know, that fourth channel. I don't even know if you guys remember that. So it was the fourth channel. There was only 3 channels, and then there was that educational channel that always had a little fuzz on the TV. It never looked good. And, it's a 19-inch black, TV, which was like cool as hell at that time. Anyway, so my dad's watching a science show called Nova. It was showing a heart transplant. And I was running around. I sat down. It was an hour long. And I watched the whole show. And my dad was like looking at me going, this kid doesn't even sit still for Gilligan's Island and stupid shows. How does sit still for anything? I was so fascinated. And I looked at my dad. I said, who does that? And he said, because you're at that age where you're starting to think, like, am I going to be a fireman, a policeman, whatever? He goes, heart surgeons. I looked at him. I said, that's what I'm going to do. So fast forward now, I'm 13. Now in Jackson, Mississippi, there's pine straw falls down in the fall, and it's a pain in the ass. You have to rake that, bag it, and put it on the curb, and you keep having to do it until the damn pine straw's off the trees for winter. So we lived in a cul-de-sac. So I was on one side of the street, and the cul-de-sac was to the left, and I was raking, and then my neighbor, who was like probably 70 at that time, raking his yard. And this Ferrari drives up the road and goes to the cul-de-sac where an allergist lived, where he was slumming with us. And a hot blonde walks out one door, and this tall, dapper, good-looking guy walks out the other. And I'm like, my jaw's hanging down, the car, the girl, and the neighbor's starting to laugh, chuckle at me across the street. I'm like, hey, Mr. Jones, who is that? He goes, that's Dr. Tyler. He's a heart surgeon. I went, yes, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. So, and you're thinking think about it from that age, 7 to 13, you tell people, what are you going to do? And you're going to be a heart surgeon. You get all that feedback, right? Yeah. And then they tell you got to do well in school. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that then, And if I get a Ferrari and that girl, I'm going to do that. So now fast forward, I'm 18. I'm a trainer at the gym in Jackson, Mississippi. So they bring a guy in. He's like 32, finished. And he is a guy named Buddy Savoy. And he goes on to be a famous, internationally known shoulder surgeon. So I meet him, I'm training him, and we're talking. And I'm asking a little bit about orthopedics, and he's talking to me, and he goes, so you're going to college? I said, yeah, I'm going to college next year. And he goes, so what do you think you're going to do? And he goes, oh, buddy, I'm going to be what all badasses become. I'm going to be a heart surgeon. He starts laughing. He goes, I've spent a few workouts with you. I think you need to see what I do. And as an orthopedic surgeon, I'm like, sure. I had really no conception of either, other than Ferrari hot chick.
Yeah.
Right. So I went to the hospital. He was at the university hospital at that time and went on to private practice later. He's not famous yet, but he was super skilled and very popular already. And went to the ORs, and they had like 4 operating rooms going. Go to each one. There's music, rock music. There's all these tall, athletic guys, orthopedic surgeon residents are in training, and one's doing a knee replacement. The other room's doing a hip replacement. One was doing a shoulder, rotator cuff, and the fourth room was doing ACL reconstruction. Buddy's going popping from room to room, making sure everybody's doing the right thing, and music. They're talking about football and whatever, and I am like, oh my God, I need to do this. Because this is all muscular jocks doing surgery. I mean, these are my people.
Yep.
And so he starts laughing. He goes, all right, I think you need to go see what heart surgery looks like. So he takes me to another operating room. And I stand where the anesthesiologist is, where the drapes, and they mask me, and I'm looking over the drape. You can hardly see anything. But what you hear is the heart monitor. It's like there's no music, and all you hear is like boop, 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 the heart monitor. And every so often you'd hear the professor yell at the resident who's learning how to do this heart surgery. And it would be punctuated like profanity, like, you dumb motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And then they stop. And then you hear the heart monitor, boop, boop, boop. And then they do it again. And this goes on for like 2 hours. I am like, oh, this is bullshit. I turned to the anesthesiologist because Buddy's gone. He's, Buddy Savoy, who put me in there. And I turned to the anesthesiologist. I said, how much longer is this going to take? He goes, he's pretty fast. This will take another 2 to 3 hours.
What?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I looked at him. I said, I didn't know any different. So I said, can I leave? He goes, yeah, just walk out that door. I was out that door. Buddy was further down the hall, and he goes, what'd you think? I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. He starts laughing. So then I decided I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. That was the day. I was 18, and I went down that track. And it really helped me to decide then, because first of all, you had to do well enough in college to get into med school. Mm-hmm. And then when you get into med school, you better damn well know you won't, because if you take your foot off the gas to get an orthopedic, so after med school, you match in residencies. You go, they have different residencies, neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, dermatology, all the way down. Well, orthopedic surgery is the most difficult one normally to match in. So you apply, and they look at you, and then they match. They have their rank order, you have your rank order of different programs, and they match you. This computer does it. So they call it the match. And so you had better be killing it. You needed to graduate in the top 10 to get a spot. You could get lower than that and get a spot, but it's harder. And you're going to have to need some luck or connections. And I had no connections, and I couldn't count on luck. Child of immigrants can't count on that. You can get lucky, but you can't count on it.
Yeah.
And so I worked my ass off. And I out-competed guys smarter than me. In med school, there were some freaks that were just like, one of them, Randy Malfrey, I still never forget him, man. He would play guitar. Like apparently his roommate would say, he would play guitar all day, and never play video games, never studied. He would only show up to class, listen, and he would, make an 80 percentile, 85 on a test. And
That's crazy.
It is insane. There are some insane people in the world. But, you still, I just outworked them and outworked other guys. And everybody really the guys that finished in the top, most of us that finished in the top 10 were just hard workers. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously we had some intelligence, but there were guys smarter than us that finished behind us. And some of them just didn't mind because they weren't going to do anything competitive. They weren't trying to get a spot in orthopedics or neurosurgery. They're more bookish and thoughtful, and these are highly aggressive programs with highly aggressive people, and they would rather do more internal medicine things where they're calmer and different personality.
Yeah.
So anyway, I matched it at the Campbell Clinic, and the rest is history.
So you talked about,
wow,
that's a long journey.
Yeah.
It's not an easy journey. I remember I used to say I'm going to be a heart surgeon. Then I said I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. Those are two things I was going for at first. And then I hit 18, and it was rough in my life at that time. Even rough relatively, right? Everybody has it different in America, right? And I had so much ambition, right? I remember we went to lunch probably a month or so ago, and I told you, like, I want to go. And you're like, Mo, just slow down. Just one day at a time, little by little, And I don't believe in that. It's hard for me to pull that back. And I went to school, and I didn't want nothing to do with it. I realized really quick I hated school, But I did it for my parents. I wanted to graduate. I did it. I dropped out. I decided to leave the medical path and go engineering, biomedical engineering. Why? Because my older brother's doing it, and there was a path to medical school. If I decided in the future, I would have all the requirements, I'll be eligible. And I dropped out, and I went back because I didn't want to tell my kid I dropped out. I just left a bad taste. Quitting just left a bad taste. And so eventually I went back and I got my engineering degree. But you were talking about all these educated people and they're freaks of nature. I remember seeing this in school, and I'm like, bro, why is this not me? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I didn't go to school to work in engineering. You went and you have your clinics and you did all this. And I've always kind of gotten in this argument with people, you know, both of us having degrees, about you have to have a degree to succeed. You know, and I always tell them, like, yeah, it can help you if you pick the right degree, you know. But what are your thoughts on those people that say, you know, like education, which education is good. I'm not ignoring that. But the biggest term that you said, outworking everybody.
That's right.
Work ethic. You know what I mean? Because we don't see this in America no more. Most Americans are complaining about immigrants. We see this all the time now, whether they're Latino or the Middle Eastern immigrants that are coming here. We're complaining about immigrants, okay? And it's for the number one reason is because Americans are not willing to do the job that immigrants are willing to do.
That's correct.
You know, like a few weeks ago, I posted it was raining outside, and there was some Latinos doing yard work in the rain, in the pouring rain. They're working, and I posted something along the lines like, "We complain about immigrants, but we're not willing to do this." The second we see some sprinkles, we're running in the house. You know, and so what are your thoughts on education? No education, but having the work ethic and willing to outwork everyone.
It's been shown that talent is overrated. Grit, as they describe the hard work ethic, is what's really the most important determinant of success, and the ability to defer enjoyment. So they've done these studies and they followed these kids. It's called the marshmallow study. They took these kids and said, hey, we're going to give you this marshmallow. These are like 4-year-olds. And if you can wait 15 minutes, you get a second marshmallow. But if you eat that marshmallow, you don't get the second one. 80% of them ate the marshmallow. The 20% that got the second marshmallow, they followed them. They all became way more successful than their peers because they had the discipline, the ability to defer enjoyment to later.
Wow.
And that is because that's what hard work does, right? It sucks. It sucks to grind it out. And you're in it, you are miserable most of the time. Everybody tells you hard work is fun. Yeah, after you've made the success, you're like, oh, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, being in residency and I'm like in the middle of the night, I've had fever and chills. I've been operating on this person who was drunk driver, multiple broken bones. I have fever and chills and diarrhea, and I'm operating in the middle of the night. I'm thinking, this is terrible. I'd like to quit. And you don't. And then I look back now and think, that's just a great story I tell people now.
Yeah.
You look back at it and you go, that wasn't that bad. You just got to push past it. And one of the things, and I'm going to, what a degree will get you is a job. It's not going to make you successful. It might help you get a job. Getting educated is more important. It's just underrated now. Learning things for the sake of learning is really important, especially now that everybody has a college degree, or like 60% of people. So what do you get now? You're in the same pool as them. So you better you better have learned something. Learn how to communicate, learn how to write, learn how to think. Okay. But right now, if you ask me what a young man should do, I tell them to learn how to fix something. Learn how to HVAC, electrical. There's a huge shortage of these people. Vocational. That's where the incomes are increasing dramatically. But there's not as much prestige. And so there's going to be they're going to make more money than the person who finished college. But they're not going to have the prestige. Here's a crazy stat I saw last week. So if I came out of high school and I'm trying to remember if it was HVAC or electrical or plumbing. It doesn't matter. They're going to be very equivalent. If I came out at 18, let's say I chose at 18, and then at 18 instead, like I became a regular medical doctor. So at what age do you think does the doctor catch up net worth wise with the vocational, let's say the electrician. So if you're an electrician, you go to electrical at 18, and the other 18-year-old goes to college. At what age does the person who went to college and medical school catch up net worth wise with the electrician? 47.
Wow.
47. So imagine if you're that electrician and you think you actually not only learn electrical, but you learn either through books or podcasts now about business.
Yep.
And you will probably be way richer than that doctor. How to invest, maybe even set up have a few employees, not just be an independent contractor. You're going to end up better off. And you don't need to go to college to learn the basics of anything anymore. You can learn it on YouTube. I think about my middle son, Johnny Michael. He wanted to take, he was very competitive, and he went on to, they have these tests you can do. I'm blanking on the name that you take at the end of school, but he had done all the ones that the school offered. Okay. And then he had two other ones that he wanted to take. The school, he never took the class. And he just went online and learned it and then took the test. Never had a lecture on it, just went online, YouTube. I asked him, how did you do this? Because he scored really high on those. And he said, I just YouTube it and learned it. So you can learn anything you need from college. And I think college is a good thing. I just don't think it's the only thing. And you can learn. I think if I would tell a young man who, unless he's dead set on becoming a lawyer, engineer, or a doctor, something you need to have a degree for, I would tell you go get a vocational degree to learn how to fix something and then learn the rest on the way. Become an educated person.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Learn philosophy, learn some history. You don't even have to open a book. Go on a history podcast. Amazing. I get on it now. I'm like, when I I've tinkered with YouTube, but about a year ago, I actually got the premium subscription. Biggest giant rabbit hole ever, And I get on and learn all this stuff I never would have learned before. Even things I know about, I'll listen to a lecturer talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is amazing. I can do this, and it's free.
Sharpen Your Sword podcast on YouTube, guys.
Absolutely.
Subscribe.
You can learn amazing things. Look, I've learned a lot. You're young. Gio's young. I'm 57. You're both half my age or less. I learned a lot from you guys just by doing the jiu-jitsu. It's made me tougher, made me better. I wanted to quit every day so bad. I was so sore all the time. And I wasn't getting it. I was slow. I hadn't done anything athletic in 40 years. I was deconditioned. I was strong. I had some quickness. I had some explosive power, but no conditioning and no skills. And the skills were coming very slow. And, and with your help, I pushed past that and got to the point where now I really love it, because now I have just 5% of enough of the knowledge to get, I can see this developing now, where I was not getting it at all. It took a long time. Just so the people listening to this could, I started calling myself Fitty for 51st dates. I don't know if anybody saw it, or you can call it Groundhog Day, where on 51st dates, they would go on a date and this girl would forget everything from the day before. It was like a first date every time. And that's how I felt doing jiu-jitsu, because I'd be like, wait a minute, what's that called again? And how do you do it? And it was like, I'm never going to get this. And you just keep doing it and keep doing it. And I really, when I was talking about quitting every day, I thought I was being a big old puss. I really did. I was like, I just cannot quit. I cannot quit. It's just, I'm not doing it. But I thought, I'm a big pussy here. And then I heard Jocko Willing, Mr. SEAL Team, giant human, square jaw, scary looking dude. And I saw him in interviews, and they were asking him about jiu-jitsu, and he said, I want to quit every day.
Yeah.
It's very humbling at his level.
Yeah.
And he'll post videos of him being choked out.
Yeah.
And he's a black belt, I don't know how many stripes.
3-4 degrees at least.
Yeah. And a giant human getting
Yeah.
tapped out. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a pussy. This is normal for the journey.
Yeah.
And I'm totally addicted to it. You know, I would train every day if my body would let me. Or if Mo and Gio wouldn't hammer me so hard during classes and Ben.
The journey has to be from your journey. It's a rough patch. It's a rough journey, right? It wasn't just a walk in the park. Delayed gratification. Right. Everybody's expecting to have something overnight. Everybody's expecting these days, and I'm young. I don't know why I think I'm in my 40s. I always talk like I'm in my 40s, but I'm young. But I went through that hard journey, right? I followed my dad's footsteps. It was a rough upbringing, but I don't regret any of it. I own an academy. I own furniture stores. I own my own business. So at a young age, I'm blessed, thank God, right? But people just think that kind of falls into your lap. You know, like it's just, hey, like you're lucky, you know, or that must be nice, you know. What do you say to those people? Because I mean, your parents came here. It's like I don't want to put anybody down that lives in this country, right? Because they helped build the country, right? At least the older generation. But it's a different mindset when you come here. You're leaving your home. You're leaving everything behind. You're leaving even your family. Like when my dad came, he came solo. His brothers were here. But he left you leave the nest. And you also know this from our coaches, you don't leave the home.
No.
You do not leave the home.
I'm still trying to talk my kids into moving back.
You know? You don't leave the home in our culture. And if you do, then it's like a very big disrespect. It's like, oh, you left the family. This whole thing goes on. But it's a different ballgame when you leave and there's almost no return. Like this is my only way out in other terms. You know, a lot of people have things to cover them these days. Well, whatever you want, what social projects, programs, you know, government, whatever it is, you know, they don't look at it as like, this is my only way out. For me, in my mind, is for me to be successful, this is the path I have to go. I left the family business at a young age. Even though we all were in America, that was still a big disrespectful thing. Until the other day we were talking about it. That was like one of the biggest no-nos I've done. But it paid off. And years later, 10 years later, it paid off, right? So what do you say to those people? Like, man, nothing lands in your lap. The journey is rough. Like you said, you want to quit. You want to quit. And you said something very interesting. Deferred
gratification.
Deferred gratification, but pushing the pleasure away.
Yeah, postponing the pleasure.
Postponing the pleasure. This one is super hard, man, because we talked about it on the last podcast with the lady in the red dress. And the lady in the red dress is the attractive woman that you saw come out the Ferrari. And you want that woman. But this woman appears in procrastination. This woman appears in the pleasure that you want to partake in, whether it's eating a marshmallow, not waiting, you know, or going to party, or not studying at night, or not educating yourself, or working on your business. You want the pleasure. What do you tell to those people? Like, hey, man, you got to put that aside. And the journey is rough. Very, very rough.
There was a great book written by a guy named, I think his name is James Collins. He wrote a business book called Good to Great, how to go from a good business to a great business. Then he did a follow-up book. And the title escapes me, but it was about how to become successful and these companies become successful. And it basically came down to one thing. And he called it pushing the flywheel. So flywheel is a thing that goes round and round and round. And he goes, it's the grind of pushing the flywheel. You just keep pushing the flywheel. And there's a great image that came from that. Anybody who, and I think probably all of the listeners on this podcast have seen the original Conan, the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
So if you remember in that, there was a scene where he got kidnapped from his tribe as a child, and they had put him on this flywheel, all the tribe, and he keeps pushing, and he becomes this powerful giant human, the last one alive in that whole group. But he pushed that flywheel, and that's what made him supremely muscular and tough. And then he escapes and becomes successful. But you have to push the flywheel. It's about that grit and the grind. There is no magic. Even people you look at, you think became successful overnight, have not. They have all done that before they became successful. Even if they, but I remember them saying, God, it was some singer years ago. They're like, he became an overnight success. Well, they said, yeah, but he spent 20 years in clubs singing and dancing and all that, and then finally hit. You're going to push all these comedians you see that have become successful now. Look at them. They're a little older. Mm-hmm. They get bombed hundreds of times at these little shit clubs and made no money for decades before they made it. They're not, even if they're in their 30s, they started when they were 18, 19, 20, and they've done it for a decade. Mm-hmm. And they were broke. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, singing, dancing, even the big tech guys, like you see them become hugely successful. Now, those are outside successes, but they all spent 90 to 100 hours a week coding to get to the point, and it took years. Now, that's still pretty quick to become a billionaire, great, but it still took that grind. That market rewarded them for that. So, do you know what the number one degree of a billionaire is? No degree. The richest billionaires have no degree. They all dropped out. They're all smart guys anyway. Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. You go down the list of people who dropped out. The number two degree for billionaires is engineering, because you're problem solving.
So you're saying I have a chance?
You have a chance at your young age, and you do seem a lot older because of what you've been through. You're only, you're 27, 28?
29.
29. I mean, that's, in this day and age, I mean, today, that's considered extremely young, and you are way beyond your years in wisdom. In the past, Alexander the Great had already conquered most of the known world at 29.
Damn it, Alex.
I know. So that was just a different age range. I mean, they were expected to do a lot more at a lot younger age. Mm-hmm. And we postpone a lot of that. And that's okay. There's some things that are good about that, some things that are bad about that. But you're definitely way more mature than your age indicates.
Thank you.
And there's and that's the thing about, I think you're right on the edge, the top edge of Gen Z. Maybe even right what they call zillennials. But I will tell you, we give Gen Z a hard time, and some of it's deserved, but the top 20% of them are unbelievably effective people. Mm-hmm. The other 80%, we'll wait and see. It's still early. We gave the millennials a hard time. They're doing all right now, and now they're shitting on Gen Z. But the Gen Z that I see at the top of the curve, they're incredibly effective, and they're probably the most effective people of any generation. Really? They're very smart. I mean, the amount of knowledge, because the internet and YouTube and all that is a double-edged sword, essentially. It can make you really weak, which is what it's done to a lot of people, but it can also provide an unbelievable foundation of knowledge. And those who get that become like literal wizards of knowledge. I talk to my kids. I think my kids are a lot like that, and their friends I talk to, I'm like, wow, I did not know any of this when I was their age. Yeah. Their knowledge base and their perception of the world is way beyond what I was. I was much more sheltered. And I'm a Gen X. We're tougher, but we were not as educated and as knowledgeable as the top of the Gen Z. But we're way tougher than them. I mean, to this day. I mean, that's kind of all the memes. Like Gen X is. We're kind of like accurate, essentially thugs. Mafia. We're grinders, though. Yeah. The reputation of Gen X is we're grinders. Yeah. So.
See, that's how I feel about Gio. Like Gio comes up with all these facts, and he tells me like we're just having a conversation. And he's like, "Do you know this?" I'm like, "Bro, how do you know this?" Like I don't even know how you came up with that fact. And so. It's crazy what you said about it's a double-sided sword, double-edged sword, For the majority of the population, the phone, because it gets me. I'll be honest, this gets me, The scrolling on the Instagram, or TikTok. I hate TikTok, but it's the same idea, you know?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by how much time I spend on Instagram.
You know, like you look at the time because your freaking iPhone now tells you how much time you spend on it. I'm like, why you got to tell me that? Don't tell me that, you know?
Turn that off.
You know, like I feel so guilty. But if you don't use it right, then you're on the second half, which is the weak population that's just stuck. They're mentally draining themselves, just scrolling for pleasure, right? There's no education they're taking out of it. It's pleasure. They're seeking pleasure. And that's what most people do. They seek pleasure, right? And as long as you're seeking pleasure and you get the high from it, you become addicted to pleasure.
Yeah, that dopamine response.
That dopamine.
Yeah.
And so anytime you feel like a response, because your body, we're created for these outside stimulus when they come in and it's hard, it's like it goes into like survival mode. Like, hey, no, push that away. You're doing hard work. Oh, that's too hard on your body. Keep that away. You know, so people become numb to that. Anytime any little inconvenience happens, they don't want nothing to do with it. And it drives me nuts. And because these days you hear all these people complaining about what they don't have. And I'm like, man, I'm still young. And of course, I said everybody has a different. There's no way out of this. If you want to be success, and it's an honor to have you on this podcast because our podcast is really to try to get people not to be average. It's to be above, like to high performers. And for me, you're the high performer in my life, right? I'm glad to have you around. It's a blessing to have you around. But for the ones that are watching, the viewers that are watching, you can't seek pleasure. I told Gio, you have to go through the trenches. You have to be in the shithole. If you don't go through that, man, there's no way out of it. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but that tunnel's far. And you have to keep inching your way through it. Keep going until you see the light.
You know, it's not fun, but there's something addictive about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to the point where I wasn't practicing as much, you know, I built some businesses and, got to a point where I didn't have to practice as much. What's the first thing I did? I took on two of the most painful, hardest sports you can learn. Golf, which is infuriating to your mind, and then jiu-jitsu, which is punishing to your body. But both are very difficult. Both take a long time to get good at. And because I needed something else to do, to push up that rock up that hill. So, once you get used to doing it and you pull back a little bit, you start to miss that. And you start to do it again, find something else. Yeah. And I wanted to get better at something physical because I kind of had done a lot of the weightlifting, but I obviously didn't have the time to do all of the martial arts training. And I was also worried about hurting my hand and getting injured and not being able to do surgery. Looking back now, I really wish I thought more. But I lived in North Mississippi. There wasn't a lot of now there's a lot more martial arts, but when I started practice, and I wish I had done more privates then, because I could have, you could always look back and go, oh, I wish I started earlier. Yeah. But because the privates helped me avoid injury. Yeah. To some degree. I mean, you're going to get hurt. Right. But I think that has been a big deal, and I appreciate you taking me on and all that. I know you weren't doing any at the time, and now you don't hardly have time for yourself because everybody's trying to get privates with you. But those were effective for me, and it helped me get over the hump to continue to get better. Now I think I can throw in classes. I've got a base of knowledge because if you remember what I told Gio and I told you, I need to learn 5 things. Just give me 5 things and I'll go, that way I kind of catch up to where everybody else was. Because I was watching them. I was watching, Enos Brothers and all them. Even though they'd started before me, they were obviously advancing. Yep. And I was just not getting it. Yeah. So, and that's painful as a competitive guy. Oh, yeah. So I was going to figure out a way to get to close that gap. They were training a lot more than me, which I was like stunned by because, I was like, my body was so beat up. You're younger. I get it. But I don't give a shit. Yeah. I'm 57. They're like, well, you're 57. I don't care. Yeah. They're in my gym, and I want to at least be able to be competitive. Yep. I get it that, 20 years younger, 10 years younger, there's going to be that gap in skill set, but you've got to ignore a lot of the disadvantages you get, whatever it is, immigrant language issues, you got to just press past it. And, but recognize what you have and grind through it The one thing I think I could have done better was enjoy the time a little bit more. I did not do that well. I didn't ever stop and kind of said, let me just smell the roses a bit, enjoy the process. The first 10 years of practice, I took 3 weeks of vacation.
I remember you telling me that.
That's the stupidest thing. I remember our motto back then, guys, that was not that unusual. I mean, that was extreme. But a lot of the guys I was with, we had this motto, we'll sleep when we're dead.
Yeah. That's
just the dumbest thing you could ever do. And didn't take vacation, didn't spend as much time with family at that time. I was pretty good about it because I was a family-oriented guy, but even when I was with them, I was, I think, a little too focused about thinking about what I had to do here and here and my dreams and all that, instead of just dialing back and going, let me just pay attention to what's right in front of me. Let me enjoy this dinner, forget about everything else. Enjoy the time with the kids or whatever it is, and just enjoy that moment. Be mindful, as they call it. And there's a lot of great things ideas that are spreading. Mindfulness,
being present.
That's important.
Yeah.
I really do. I wish I learned it earlier. One of the things I think more people, my dad was a philosophy professor. And of course, being a child of a philosophy professor, I totally ignored it. Oh, that's my dad. That's not real world. That's not real life. Well, one day he gave me a book. It was on the Stoic philosopher Seneca, Letters of a Stoic. Changed my life because he gave it to me when I was almost 40. So I was in my late 30s. I read it. He goes, Johnny, read this. And I was like, Dad, really? Philosophy? I'm an orthopedic surgeon. He goes, this man not only changed the world, but he was the richest man in Rome. You can do both.
Wow.
And so I was like, did you see the richest man in Rome? Let me get that book. But anyway, I read it, and it changed my life because it was basically a lot of what everybody throws in.
Yeah.
They think this is all new. None of this is new. And he preached the mindfulness, being present, doing all of that. Not only that, but like Stoic philosophy is about what is in your life that you can control and what is out of your control. There's really 3 spheres. There's what you can control, what you can kind of impact, and what you cannot control. What you cannot control, ignore it. Don't dwell on it. And one of the great sayings about that is shit happens.
Yep.
Can't control that. Okay.
It is what it is.
But you can control what you put in your body, how you train. You should do those, right? Absolutely. And he was Roman, but he embodied the Greek ideal of mind and body. You have to have both. And I preached that to my kids repeatedly. And I know they're ignoring a lot of it, but later in life,
it'll come back.
Yeah. And I remember my middle son, we went to an awards ceremony, and there was another award that these kids got that he didn't get. And I can't remember the reason behind it. It was an age thing or something, but he didn't get it, and they were on stage, and there were all these like super pale, super thin, super unathletic. And I told John Michael, I told my daughter, I'm like, no, you're now an extreme. You're like that, but there's no reason why you cannot have some sun, have some muscle, have some athleticism. There's no reason. You don't have to be an athlete. You can but you don't have to be a bookworm and look like that's not what the Greek philosophers fought in the phalanx. They fought on the line. They were worked out. They went to the gym. They were warriors. The great thinkers most of our time were also warriors. And so you can be a warrior in multiple ways. You can train hard. You can lift. You can power lift. You can CrossFit. You can do jiu-jitsu. I wish I had done more martial arts when I was younger. But even back when I was younger, it was Taekwondo, and I'd see those guys get their asses kicked regularly, and I was like, I'm not spending my time doing that and watching their asses get kicked, karate and all that. And you watch them. get their asses beat by some thug. And you're like, well, that's useless.
Yeah.
So, but you need to do both. You got to do both. And I think that's getting more prevalent now. What's funny is there's more people that are obese than ever in history of mankind. There's also a whole group of people that are unbelievably conditioned. Mm-hmm. And there's a split happening in society, both economically and physically, and I'll bet you they're all interrelated.
Yeah.
But most people now, I think I see a lot more of that blend. Like, yeah, I may be a bodybuilder, or a power lifter, or a jiu-jitsu artist, but I also need to know other things. I need to be I need to have some knowledge. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, starting to come to the net, because I think there's a lot of these podcasters that are weaving that in, and I think people are listening. And you're going to start seeing a lot more of this, but it's pretty interesting to watch. Yeah. But you got to have both. You cannot just be one or the other. Yeah.
I'm glad, because we were actually going to get to that point. Yeah. So that was a good point. And I kind of had the idea because of jiu-jitsu. And when I delved deep into jiu-jitsu, I was super obsessed. Became super obsessed. I changed my diet. I mean, my dad, because I was at work watching hours and hours. Like, if there was not a customer, I was watching the Gracies. Yeah. And my brothers can vouch for this, and they thought, like Somali, my brothers and my dad, they thought I was like crazy. Legit. I quit. I changed my diet. I changed everything. My workouts, and I became super obsessed, and they were looking at me like, they used to say, like, what's wrong with you? My dad used to be like, bro, you're going to go crazy watching this guy. Stop watching him, you know? And
Boy, Arab dads, if they don't understand what they're looking at, they are going to shit on it.
Dude,
like, unbelievable.
I'm telling you, he shit on me so bad.
Oh, my God.
It was so bad. And it's funny because when I came to open the gym, they thought I was crazy. They lost their minds. My parents, they went nuts.
Especially, like, across the way.
Man, you know? And because thank God I got into jiu-jitsu at 18, and because of Professor Jonathan Border. That's my professor. And if it wasn't for him, man, I always tell people the story. I was a Muay Thai guy. I thought I was going to go to Thailand. I was going to fight in Lumpney Stadium. Like, I was going to throw elbows. We were going to be in a bloodbath. That's all I wanted. I wanted to be in a fight where we're both bleeding out of our heads. The ring is full of blood. And that's what I wanted, for it to happen in Thailand. And that was my goal. 18 years old, I wrote this paper. I was in college, and I had a philosophy class. And I was, 18, emotional kid, angry, happy, didn't have control of the emotions. I wrote home this big paper, dramatic paper, 3-4 pages. I'm going to have an academy. I'm going to be this world champion, blah, blah, blah. May 12th, 2014, I'm going to come back and train with you. And I did. And that day he asked me, where's your gi? And I didn't have it because I didn't want to do jiu-jitsu. I thought, to be honest, I thought it was homosexual. Just to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
It's not gay if you don't look him in the eye, as they said. As I learned in jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
And man, that stuff is gay. Just to be honest with you, that's gay. I'm not hugging on another guy. Yeah. And he smacked me in my face and said, "You're going to do jiu-jitsu." Just like that.
He had a school at the time. At
this time, he was training at a school. He's already closed his down.
Okay, right.
And he smacked me and he said, "You're training jiu-jitsu. Next time you come, you better have a gi." And next time I came in, no gi. I had Thai shorts on. The Thai shorts are short, man. Short shorts. Yeah. And I was so uncomfortable because he forced me to train. He's like, if you want me to be your trainer, your coach, you're going to train. Started training. I went through this rabbit hole. And I knew I got to take care of my mind. And I knew how to take care of my body. But the mindset part was jiu-jitsu, because you either quit or you fight. You either sink or you swim. And a few years ago, it started clicking. I'm like, bro, I'm becoming successful because I'm educating myself and I'm sharpening my sword physically. Both. And that's why we did sharpen your sword, You have two, physically and mentally. If you can put these together, man, you have a better chance. It's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. But you have a chance at seeing success, And so that was a very big point to see from a very successful entrepreneur person to say that. Because these people need to hear it. Education is good. But if you're a fat piece of slob, it's only going to take you so far. Yeah. Because your body and the way you eat and everything it is also what's in your mind. Your body's a reflection almost of what's in your mind, And so you have to be healthy physically and mentally.
I really was inspired by two books early on in life. One was the Bible, which is obviously, and and I'm not a super religious guy, but I was inspired by Jesus' teachings that compassion, love thy neighbor. I mean, this guy, imagine, imagine back then telling people to turn the other cheek, to love your neighbor, to not kill each other.
Yep.
That's totally radical.
Yeah.
And, he was a Jew, so, there's that. Christianity's born. And then even Muhammad adopted him as one of the prophets. So that's how powerful he was. So there was that formed a lot of my mindset, like, hey, and not from an organized religion, because I was an altar boy at the Greek Orthodox Church, and I learned that organized religion it's a bunch of bullshit. Let's just face it, And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about when humans take it and fuck it all up.
Yeah.
Make it something it wasn't designed to be.
To fit them.
To fit their their agenda.
Yeah.
So, but from a spiritual standpoint, I definitely am a believer, and in the sense of what I call the good part. The parts that I look at and go, come on, really? That we all know which parts those are. So then the next book was the Iliad. The Iliad was a book written by Homer, ancient Greek poet, about the Trojan War. I got so fascinated with Achilles and the warrior ethic. And so you got that compassion, the Christian compassion, and then you got the warrior ethic that I got from the Iliad. And I read these like when I was 11. I was one of those weird kids. I read stuff that probably most kids at that age definitely didn't read, and they don't read now. So you got that, and it became this kind of combination of the Greek warrior philosopher, and then you kind of combine that with the Christian. I used to jokingly call it the Christian compassion and the pagan aggression. You get the combination and kind of work for me. Love everybody, but I'll throw down on you. And I try to do that. My first instinct toward everybody is I want to like them. I can be a bit naive about it, but I want to like them, and I can pick out if they're going to be a bad person. But most people really don't want to be a shithead if you give them a chance. And if they are, well, then, you just ignore them, push them away, and don't let them affect your life. But I think those two things, really formed my mentality at a young age. Plus all the other stuff we just talked about growing up. And, it's kind of that whole stew of things that makes you who you are.
Yeah. I want to rewind to something that you said, because people always ask me, like, when do you stop, right? Like, why are you working so much? And you said something like you're almost it's addicting to keep going. And my problem is if I have an easy day, like I tell people, I love to live in the chaos, because if I don't, my mind like fires back at me. And it's like, bro, like, what are you doing? And it feels like something is wrong. And then I'm in my head and it spirals out of control. And it's almost like, I tell people, it's like almost I don't know how to turn a switch off. But it may be that I don't want to turn a switch off, And you said something like, because I'm trying to practice it now, because other people have told me what you said. Like, man, like you told me, right? I keep thinking about that lunch we had, and you just gave me all this stuff. And you said, Mo, like, it's going to come. Just, one day at a time, slow by slow, poco a poco, little by little. And you said you wish you were present, and you wish you enjoyed things. And because for me, somebody asked me this, and I told them, like, 10 years of my life, I kind of don't remember. From 18 to 28, like just recently, I went to Vegas, right? Like this year, thank God, alhamdulillah, thank God for everything. Like this last year or so, I've been traveling for tournaments. It's still my job, but I get to do it. I have the means to do it. But it's like since I was 16 to about 28, 10, 12 years, I don't remember. It's a blur. I didn't care to interact with people. I didn't enjoy the dinners, the lunch, the parties, the weddings. It was just, I didn't care for none of it. Like, I don't remember any of it. Like, even, like, it's sad to say, but some family members that grew up, and it's like, I don't remember their childhood. Like, being present as a big brother, And so that kind of hurts me. But my question to you is, Because now I'm trying to do it because of that. Like, there's a little bit of regret, you know? Do you think you would still be as successful?
So yes, I really do. I think I was, and you're learning it. I'm learning it at 57. I got better at 50, maybe even my late 40s, but it took me a while to really kind of. And sad as to say, I just reconnected with a lot of my old cousins that I hadn't seen in years, and I'm like, man, I let this get by me.
Yeah,
These
that's
people
how I feel.
These guys are awesome.
Yeah.
And, they got busy. I got busy. Circumstances, Syrian civil war for 10 years, all kinds of things. They got spread all over the world. Lebanese, they have a constant strife, all that. So, my family's either Syrian or Lebanese. So there's that. But yes, you can do it because there's always downtime. And in the downtime, is when I just let my mind just keep going.
That's my problem, man.
and I focus on that. Like we would be, and I see it in my son. He's talking to you, but he's thinking about something else.
Yeah.
And I did it. I tried to come on back, But yeah, you can do both. You got to be more disciplined about it. Like when you're doing this, you do that. And then when you're with friends and family, you do that. And you just kind of like, okay, I'm going to let this, my mind rest, because you will do better, I think.
Yeah.
And you'll make less mistakes because, your brain does need to rest, and you need those connections with people to feel, and it helps your creativity. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, what we were talking about at lunch is, when you have the mind like that, you tend to shoot here, shoot here, shoot here, and you got to kind of figure out, okay, I want to do this path and this path, or one path or two path, whatever. But you get hyper organized in each of those. Build the framework, build the systems, and the systems make you great. Great ideas are great, but you're going to have to execute that idea, and the way to execute that idea is to build a step-by-step system. So we talked a little bit, whether it be, I opened these clinics, I started these testosterone clinics and orthopedic clinics and urgent care clinics, and every one of them, I had a mentor when I started the Ageless Men's Health clinics, the testosterone clinics, and he was older and he'd already done it for a Fortune 100 company, so it was huge. So I learned from him how to develop these systems. I'm like, oh, this makes this. And what you realize is once you develop those systems, it becomes easier, way easier than just trying to wing it. And if you do it and you get the checklist, you develop all the operations and you hone it down, you hone it down, you hone it down. And you're constantly looking to make it better, but you document it and you create literally like a recipe. Then you can repeat it and then you become wealthier. And your life becomes more organized and you have more free time. When you're just constantly winging it, like I'm prone to do, it makes it harder.
Yeah.
I remember Jason Blackwood, he was my partner in this. I would always look at him and go, he always seems to have a lot more free time than I do. And he was running he was running 500 physical therapy clinics.
Wow.
And he always seemed like he had more time. And I thought, well, that's just the business world. Then I found out, no. It was because he was hyper organized. And so when he had time, he was great with his kids. He enjoyed time with people. And that's when he was in the corporate world, which sucked. Now he'll tell me now he spends, we were just talking a few weeks ago. We talk every day. We're best friends. He's like my older brother. And I was like, he was like, well, how you doing? You working too hard? I'm like, Jason, I'm almost embarrassed. I don't work that much. He goes, I don't work near as hard as you do. You're the CEO of the company. He goes, actually, I only do about 4 to 5 hours of time that needs Jason. That's his, his name's Jason. So he only does 4 to 5 hours a day that needs him. The rest of the time, he does what he wants.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, we need to cut your salary. No, I'm just joking. No, without him, it would not have happened.
Yeah.
Really, because I might have learned how to do one clinic, then get to 5 clinics. And then maybe I probably would have gotten organized over time, but it wouldn't have happened as efficiently. It's a lot easier to do it with somebody who's already done it before. Let's just say that. And if you're willing to listen to him. And obviously he tells me the same thing. He learned a lot from me about, but that was mainly the medical side and how to manage the clinicians. Because that's always tricky, you know. They don't want to listen to a business guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you get hyper organized in whatever it is, you will get there.
So you started talking about the clinics, and I guess this is like maybe the second part of your life.
Yeah.
What led you to? Because now you're a doctor,
Right.
now you're an entrepreneur, and I think like and you're the one I'm looking up to you as this. You're the black belt. I tell people I'm just a blue belt entrepreneur. I see you as a black belt. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You're a black belt in business. I'm a blue belt entrepreneur, businessman. The business world, the entrepreneurship, the self-employed, it's not an easy gig. It can pay now. The fruits of the labor can come. And you can go golfing. You can do whatever you want at the Bahamas or wherever. Like that can come. But how did you get into this business?
So
Like what led you to become, hey, I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
So I was, so let me go back a little bit. So I was telling, this is when I was finishing medical school. I read during medical school a bunch of books that were outside of medicine because we were required to go to lecture. And they took roll. It's just infuriated me because we're adults now. But they took roll. But there was a note-taking service because these lectures were so bad. They were not PowerPoint, they were the slides back then. Mm-hmm. And they go through this thing, and I used to think it was hilarious. It was like a movie. It moved so fast you couldn't take notes. They were just spouting a bunch of facts, and you didn't really learn anything. When you got the notes, we had a note-taking service. They would publish the notes, and that you could slow down and read it. Now, if it was a good lecture, I would listen. Most of them were bad. They didn't want to be there because these were researchers. They don't want to teach anything to a bunch of med students. They wanted to go back to their lab. So I'd sit there. I'd put a hoodie, earbuds, put some kind of like light music to kind of drown out their sound, and I'd read a book. I read a lot of business books. I was really fascinated with this. Even when I was younger, I was fascinated with all of that. I remember getting my first stock market book when I was 13.
Wow.
And I got really into all that and learned about that. And I learned about business and all of that. And then, so now I'm finishing and I'm telling my father about orthopedics. And that's what I told him I'm going to try to get my spot. I've got the grades, I've got the rank in the school, I should get it. Yeah, but there's a possibility I won't get a spot. And I'd have to have a backup. He goes, so what's your backup? I said, I'm going to Wall Street. He almost shit himself. I thought in the South, they call it a come apart.
Yeah.
The Arab dad come apart. And he basically was like, what the, he's going between now English and Arabic. And that's when he's really mad.
That's when you know they're mad.
He's mad. Because he cannot focus. He's so angry.
And they do their cuss words where they cuss themselves out?
Yeah. And then they're like, they're just going back. And he's like, these people are, and he would use Arabic, but I'm going to use English cuss words. He's like, these people are fucking despicable. They're criminals. There's no honor in that field.
Yeah.
And there's no way you're going to do this. And I'm finishing medical school.
Yeah.
This is my dad telling me what I'm going to do.
Right.
And
it's Arab life, man.
Yeah, it is. So he's freaking out now. And then the reason I was going to do that was because I was just totally fascinated. I mean, this was 1993. Man, they were booming. And I've had my kids ask me, like, would you have been as successful if you'd gone to Wall Street? I said, absolutely. But I'd have no soul.
Yeah.
And I would have been, because I would have been very competitive. And I know myself well enough, I would have probably abandoned my principles during the competition to beat the guy next to me. Because and what people don't realize is like, yeah, these people, they didn't go in there to be despicable. or to criminal. They did it because they were competing against the guy next to them, and they wanted to make that sale. They didn't care, whatever trade deal, whatever it was. Fuck that other guy. I don't care. I'm going to make my numbers, and I'm going to beat this guy.
Do what it takes to win.
Right. So that's their culture. I would love to say that I would probably not abandon my principles, but the competition probably would have. I have to be honest with it. I would want to beat the hell out of them. It's easy to say that after the fact, when you're when you don't have to do it, but I probably would have.
Yeah.
So I would have lost my soul, which is, thankfully I didn't have to do that. But anyway, so I went to finish residency. Then my first focus was build the biggest practice in the history of the world, whatever. And I went to a small town in Mississippi called New Albany.
Oh boy.
And it blew up. It was the right deal. And because I wanted to be solo, and you couldn't do that in the big cities. Back in 1998, when I did this, it was a different time in medicine. The groups were all falling apart because they were losing money from they were just learning how to deal with the insurance contracts. And they were signing terrible contracts and going bankrupt. So they're falling apart and coalescing in the bigger groups. And it was a crazy time in the big cities. And so I went to a small town to set up a solo practice. It was easier to do. And it blew up immediately. And I had probably, a top 1% practice in the world.
Really?
In the country, yeah. It's terms of size and revenue.
And guys, you got to know New Albany, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's tiny.
There ain't nothing
I
there.
had a huge pull on people that loved my people. We had a great culture with my employees. We all really cared about our patients. And I got a reputation for being a nice guy, even though I was super busy. But also they knew that I was conservative. I wouldn't do surgery for the sake of doing surgery. People find out, I wanted to make a lot of money, but I wanted to do it righteously. And so I did that. I built this giant practice. And I thought, when you think at that time, I thought that would be enough. But once I did that for a while and it became routine, I became kind of like, I need something. I need something else. Yes, would I like to make more money? I didn't need more money.
Yeah.
It was pouring out more money than I ever thought I would make. So I was like, but I just need that itch scratch, the creative side. So I was searching around, and my best friend at the time, Jason Blackwood, we were like the odd couple. We were totally different. I'm like this, especially then when I was like in my late 30s, I would shoot off the mouth. I had a really quick temper. I would say whatever came to mind. And Jason was this very straightforward, like very corporate, very
clean
cut, great guy, super smart, bit rigid, and I was this wild one, We would argue every day about anything. Pick a subject, we argued about it. He was Greek descent, even though his name was Blackwood, and I was obviously Greek, Syrian, whatever, Mediterranean descent. So we argued every day. But everybody thought we hated each other. We were best friends. Anyway, he was the president of a division of a company called Stryker Orthopedics. And he took two PT clinics they had and built them up to 500 clinics. And a new chairman of the board comes in and he starts firing all the division heads, replacing with his people.
Wow.
Just like a football coach.
Yeah.
They want all their own people.
Yeah.
So I remember him telling me at a party, he goes, you see these guys here? We're all going to be out of jobs in a couple of years. And I went, really? Why? He goes, well, we got a new chairman. He was the last to go. And,
Wow.
but he, at that point, he had so many stock options and money. He was a wealthy guy when they cut him loose. And they gave him a 3-year severance package, like paid him full price, just
Wow.
go home. So he had worked really hard. So he spent a lot of time with his kids during these 3 years. And the 4th year, he was now really starting itchy to get back to doing something. And I got divorced in the whole process. It was a tough year too. We were together a lot. And 4th year, so he was really itchy, and I discovered I had low testosterone. I was feeling terrible. I was 39, and I went to my doc, and he's like, he did all the tests, and he's like, you're just need to take more time off. And I was a machine. I mean, I was a machine. And I would do, on Mondays, I would do 7 or 8 total joint replacements, like knee replacements, hip replacements, big cases. Then Tuesday, I'd see 120 patients with my PAs. Wednesday, I'd do about 15 outpatient surgeries, scopes and things like that. Thursday, I'd see another 120. And then Friday was cleanup. They were brutal days.
Wow.
And and I could never say no because, it's just my nature. Anyway, so he said, I'm like, man, I'm 39. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I know I work hard, but I don't stay up nights, And everybody works hard. Factory workers, I see them every day. They're grinding their bodies to dust. They're working hard. Yeah. I'm in air conditioning, And he goes, well, the stress level. I'm like, yeah, they have stress level because they're broke. What stress do I have? That I'm taking care of patients. Yes, that's stress, but I don't want to hear that. So I start trying to figure it out. And I finally I was doing research, and I said, I bet it's my testosterone. And that was really people didn't think about that then. So I get it tested. And so the range for testosterone is 300 to 1,000 generally. Okay. Mine was 500, which is in the kind of the middle normal at that time. But it struck me. I said, 500 is not my normal level. Because between my temperament, the way I acted, the fact that I was muscular and strong, meant there's no way I attained all of this at 500. And so I checked it again, and literally 6 months later, it was 280, so it was below normal. So I caught it on the downslope. For whatever reason, it turned off. I don't know why. And I felt terrible. I mean, I used to would go to work, I'd go to the gym, I'd get home, play with the kids, we'd eat dinner, and then I'd hang out afterward. And I'd start missing the gym because I was tired. And I'd stop running around with the kids because I was tired. And then you're not sleeping well. And then I'd get up in the morning on a surgery day, which I loved, and go, I don't think I can do this. And that's when I knew something bad was happening. So anyway, I got tested, got 280, get an injection on Friday. My doc gives it to me. Really, nobody knows how to really do this very well. I wake up Monday morning, I was back. I mean, I was back. I knew I was back. I said, oh, this is me. And it usually doesn't happen that quick, but there are the quick responders, and I was a quick responder, and it felt amazing. And so during that time, I remember I got anabolic again. So I started adding the muscle, because what was happening is I was getting weaker at the gym, losing muscle because I was tired, couldn't train as hard, and I started gaining a little bit of fat. And I was like, this is crazy. I literally became anabolic again. And so I blew back up. I started gaining, but I overshot because I was eating so much food, because my body was like, oh, it's time to put this muscle back on, get this energy. I had the energy back. And I gained like 26 pounds in a matter of a few months. And some of it was fat, but, it had a little bit. But my buddy Jason was like, what the hell are you doing? I said, man, I'm taking testosterone. And this stuff is amazing. I've done a lot of research. Back then we didn't have, this is 2007. The internet was awesome, but it was not a lot of information you could get. It wasn't as organized as it is now. There was nobody talking about this. So I had to get on the PubMed, which is the online where you could get research articles. So I was downloading as many of those as I could. And back then, the average person could do it. You can log in now and get it. Yeah. I had to get where I trained, there was a research nurse, and I got her to get it for me. It was you had to have access. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's called PubMed now, but it was something else then. Anyway, so I downloaded all these articles, and I'm reading all this, and there's no protocol. So I was talking, I kind of started putting a business plan together because I said, man, if I'm low,
How many
how
people?
many people are low? And I started thinking about this, and I started to research, and even back then it was 25%. There was published numbers. I mean, that's epic.
Yeah.
And 25% of men. So I started putting together a medical protocol, how to treat this. And through me piecing it together, I wrote the first protocol in the country. We were the first testosterone clinic in the country.
What?
Yes. There were other steroid clinics in Florida where they would do athletes. That was not medical. That was performance, right? This was medical. This was testosterone only. We weren't doing all the anabolic steroids, tren and all the stuff they were going around, or growth hormone. We were doing this. So I developed the protocol, and it changed over time as more studies came out. But I wrote the very first one, and it's still the backbone of the one we use now. And it's the same one everybody uses because they stole my protocol over time, which is fine. I wasn't trying to hide it from anybody. If anybody asked me for it, I would freely give them the knowledge. So every testosterone clinic in the country basically uses this protocol now that I've developed over time. And we were first, so we opened in Memphis. And my partner, I was telling him about it, and he's the great skeptic. He's going to question everything. And we basically went round and round on that as usual. And then we went to visit a couple docs, and they're like, yeah, you can do this. But, we're there, everybody was trying to figure it out and didn't understand it. But it was, obviously it's FDA approved. We have research papers about it. Everybody's doing it all kinds of ways. So I kind of honed it down to the way I thought would work because I was doing it. A lot of these other people weren't writing, they were writing these papers. They weren't doing the drug. I was doing it. So I was tinkering with myself. And to this day, anything we do at Ageless, me and Jason do it first. Before we give it to our patients.
Wow.
We will not do anything unless we've done it first. Talking about taking your own medicine.
Yeah.
So when people say, hey, what about this? I'm like, ooh, I don't know. If I won't do it, I won't let anybody else do it.
Yeah.
And, but some things over time, we developed it, and he agreed we should do this. Because first of all, I knew how to do the clinicians, and I wrote the protocol, and he knew how to ramp up a business because PT clinics are really no different. You have a clinician there that's a physical therapist. You have to have billing, you have to have coding, you have to do all the regulations and then open them up and get leases and all that. So we opened our first one in 2007. Our timing was so great. Let me tell you about the first week we opened. That was the day that the day we opened, the stock market dropped 1,000 points. The great crash was starting.
Yeah. In
the same week, Chris Benoit, the wrestler, killed his family, and they blamed it on testosterone. We opened a testosterone clinic, and when we put an ad in the paper, where they put us? They put us where the strip clubs were. Like we were in the middle of all the strip clubs ads, and we were like, "Oh my God, this is so terrible." We got 3 patients that first day, and one of them was our friend, so we really got 2. And then we built it up, and we figured out how to make this work. And it was multiple iterations. Error, fix, correct. You have to be honest with yourself. You screw up, change. Don't just keep doing the same stupid thing. That's what a lot of people do. So we were lucky. We both had enough capital to get through the errors, to get it right. Because we would have lunch. And I don't know if people know this. Every time I drive by it, I think it's closed now. It's called the Grove Grill. It was in that shopping center across the street from we were opened up at Elk Court Mall. And every week for lunch, our CFO would say, okay, after lunch, everybody give me a check for $12,000, $15,000 each dollars. And I was like, oh, Lord, this was going on forever. And so we'd get a lot wrong when we figured it out, but we had enough money to get it right. Mm-hmm. And so we, got that profitable and then started opening up a lot more of them. Our first clinic was in Oak Court Mall, and there's an office complex in the back of it. And this is where we didn't know how guys would react, so we figured they'd want to hide that they were taking testosterone. So we were in literally this hallway, hidden away with this little bitty sign. People walk in and go, look around. Is this the testosterone clinic? I'm like, yeah. They go, is this legal? I'm like, yeah, it's legal. Well, what it turned out, all these guys would tell their buddies. We were getting guys come in. So we opened our next one in Germantown, and we had a front, like,
Big sign.
big sign, front retail, and when we got, and where timing does work in your favor. We were early, but then the big pharma got on board. And I don't know if you guys remember, Is It Low T, the ads, for the gels.
We're not that old.
Yeah. They were like in 2000. Yes, right. It's like some of you were a kid.
Yeah.
So they were, Is It Low T came out, and it was about the gels, and they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So when people would hear this, and they were advertising how the symptoms of testosterone, this was now a few years later, they would type up looking for testosterone and find us. It was huge for our business.
Perfect.
So we got lucky there, and we blew up. And the rest, and there was a lot of stressful times during this, during the years, but we built it up. We have 83 of them now. We started another one called Ageless Women's Health, for obviously women.
Okay. Now this is new?
Yeah, these are new. We have 8 of those now, and we're going to open up a lot more. So we'll open 20 total clinics this year, ageless men and women, and probably 30 next year. So, we're going to be over 100 definitely by next year of these clinics. And then I also started some urgent care clinics called RedMed. They're mainly in North Mississippi and Arlington and Atoka. But those are being managed by a friend of mine, Ben Morris. I built it up. I took it from, so after I did the clinics with Jason, now I was like, can I do this? So there was, these guys came to me with 3 failing urgent care clinics called RedMed. They were going bankrupt, and the shareholders came to me. They knew me. There were a lot of them were doctors, and said, hey, can you help us with this? So I invested some money, and then they gave me 20% of the business to do it. And this was it. If I had known how much time and effort that would take, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. But you don't know, because it was a turnaround, and turnarounds are harder. So I went in. I remember one Friday, called it Black Friday. I had to fire 25% of the people because they were so bad. There was people stealing. It was unbelievable the things these people were doing, and doing bad jobs. And anyway, they're overemployed, whatever. So we had to let those go, and that sucks. And then we built it up from there. So we took those 3 failing clinics to now they have 14 very profitable. And so I did it, right? And then I started going, I wonder if I can do this with orthopedics. So I started, it's called Ortho Express with an X, not EX. And I started with 1, and now we have 14 of those as well. We're opening in Atlanta now. So I've taken those same skills and getting them better and better and better as I go. Learned a lot from my partner and opened up these other clinics. And then, I also learned, I said, I like having a partner that does all the operation stuff. And because he's better at it. And he enjoys it. And I like the operational side. But I prefer to kind of manage the clinicians and all the medical side. Is more my innate skill. Mm-hmm. I can pick people, I can read people, and I'm pretty good at motivating people. And they actually, funny enough, previous people call it like your clinics are just a cult. They're just a cult of Johnny Mitias.
Yeah.
And it's like it is kind of like that, because they're all, they all call me the Godfather. I look dark and dark complected, but it was funny because it's more like they people have said you're more like a legitimate mafia. Everybody believes, this is what we're going to do. It's fun to be like that, but it can't get too big that way. Yeah. These are smaller businesses compared to Ageless, but it's fun. It's good people.
Oh, that's your entrepreneur journey, and I'm obsessed with the business side of things. And I've been trying not to bug you too much about it, but this is my opportunity.
You know, I was going to tell you, I love talking about it because I will tell you, I've made a lot of mistakes. And you know what? People got to realize you're going to. And you got to try to keep the mistakes as small and quick as possible. But, you know, I want to also point out, like, a lot of your listeners are at the gym. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're always, not as much now, but anytime they have anything they need, medical especially, they can come to me.
Thank you. We know.
You know, and I'm open to it. I love doing that. Yeah. I hope I get everybody better.
Yeah.
I still love being a physician. Yeah. I just, you know, don't want to be stuck in a clinic all day.
Yeah.
You know.
And we appreciate you for that. Everybody knows you're one of the sponsors at the Academy, Ortho Express. So everybody that asked me questions, like I texted you yesterday about a different thing, but everybody's starting to feel comfortable with you, and we appreciate it because you're a big part of the Academy. And I told you before, everybody's Academy's dream is to have like a orthopedic doctor. You know, that's like if you have that in Academy, like you're making it. You know,
you find orthopedic surgeon stupid enough to do jiu-jitsu,
right?
You probably ought to keep them somehow. Yeah.
So it's a blessing that we have you because, as you know, with jiu-jitsu, things happen.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's funny because when you come do your training, it's always like there's a line of people. I'm like, bro, leave him alone. He gets to train too. You know?
No, I love it. I'll go through and see everybody. I like it's like like a quick gym clinic, and then I get to train.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it saves them from having to go to a visit that they don't need to go to.
Right.
You know, they don't need to go make an appointment and waste half their day and all that. And I can just tell them exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We appreciate you for that. So with the entrepreneur side, the business side, obviously, like Arabs say, mashallah, Allahumma barak, right? God bless you with your success. And God give you more. But what have you learned that you did not learn in school through business? Because that's a rough journey, man. It's obsessive. It can drain you. It can kill you. What have you learned through what would you say is the biggest takeaway of going through the business route, working for yourself?
You know, you don't learn any of this in school. And you don't even read, and like you read business books, they gloss over it. I think the biggest takeaway is, and this is pretty well known, I don't think I'm telling anybody that knows, surround yourself with people that fill the deficiencies that you have. So if you're weak in a certain area, get that person and get that person to fill that hole. So I'll give you a kind of quick anecdote about that. So there is a service called Kolbe, Kolbe, and they do a testing for how you solve problems. There's no right way or wrong way. And it has four bar graphs. It's follow through, and these are, you know, follow through, fact finder, quick start, and implementer. There's 4 categories. And it's bars, and it'll tell you, like, in numbers, like you're a 3, 4, 7, 8. So the fact finder, follow through are those detail-oriented people. And the quick start people are not the detail-oriented people. They're the gunslingers, charge ahead. And the implementers, the people that, you know, get things done, can implement a program. Everybody has some of all of this, and it's just different ways. So over time, I had like 50 employees at the orthopedics and we did it. And it was very comical because I had surrounded myself with fact finder follow through people, the detail oriented, the grinders that would knock out the details. They held up a bar graph and it had the quick start, which is like pegged out full, which is a quick start person is somebody that requires very little information to make a decision, makes a quick decision, and literally will turn their attention away from you if you go on too long on discussing somebody.
That's you.
That was me. So they held up this bar graph to the employees and said, "Who's this?" And they all knew immediately who it was. It was me. I was the only one in the group. I was and that my category is called the pioneer, the one who's willing to take the arrows and press forward, which is my nature. I want to do it first. But all the people around me were quick follow through fact finders. They were the ones who were able, because I'm not good at that. You know, I'm one that I can conceive of the plan, build the strategy, follow up on the strategy, but all the nitty gritty needs to be done by people. I'll even develop the recipe, the organization, the checklist, but to do it over and over and again is not my abilities. Mm-hmm. My partner, Ageless, is exactly that ability. Now, he's still a creative person, but he's much more disciplined about getting that done. And so I had that partner, and at my other clinics, I surrounded myself with those people, and I would instinctively seek them out. I didn't realize I was doing it, but if you do it consciously, I think you can do even better. And the other thing is, no assholes. I don't give a shit how effective they are. They will poison your business. I don't care how good they are, get rid of them. If they're an asshole, get rid of them. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. They can be related to you. They can be your buddy from childhood. Get rid of them.
The ones related to you are worse, man.
Oh, God. Yeah, nothing like a family problem.
Man.
Yeah.
So I believe in mindset. For me, mindset is everything. I think mindset, if you have a sharp sword mentally, it can get you, I would say 90-95% of the way. That's what I believe, right?
I would agree with that.
If you're mentally sharp and you have that, because right now, like, I'm trying to be present because you've already got me in a different world. I'm trying to run right now, right? Yeah. I see myself on a horse. It's dark. I have my sword. I want to conquer the world. That's where I see myself in my head right now. So I'm trying to stay here, right? Because I just want to go. I want to go. How important is mindset, and what kind of mindset did you have to apply, if not acquire, over the years of owning a business? Because now we're going to talk about having the business, new entrepreneurs, new business owners. Like, what kind of mindset do you think you should have? Because I think kill or be killed. There is no rest days. Get after it. You're tired, so be it. You don't feel good, so be it. None of that matters if you want to achieve the unachievable.
Right. So, yes, that's how I was. And what you'll find is there are days you can rest. And there, you know what, most businesses like, hurry up. And there'll be sprints. You got to do them. And then, but you can identify like that break, and that's when you need to recharge. Now, you're super young. You can get by with a lot less of that. But you'll find out that break, you'll come back much better. You'll find that your productivity after that break will be so much greater. You'll do better than if you work through those days. So mental rest, break, recreation are incredibly important. You take trips back home that are 2 and 3 weeks long. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And you probably get more. I think that's where you're recharging your batteries a lot, even if it's some negative stuff, with all the stuff that's going on in the West Bank, and you're with family the whole time. Yeah. So, but that's positive. It's mostly positive. Yeah. Even if they're aggravating you, it's still positive. Yeah. And what people don't realize on this podcast, when we say family, we're not talking about immediate 4 people. We're talking about 50 people. Yeah. And they're all in your business. So 100 people. It just depends. But yeah. So but if you recharge, you come back, you're much more effective. And that's what I failed at. And I would encourage everybody to do that. But when it's time to put it on, you got to put it on. You cannot rest. You think of jiu-jitsu. And I think that's a great example. If you're tense all the time, you're going to gas out. If you don't finish, you got to finish the scramble, though, or you're going to get beat. Mm-hmm. And I'm still learning that and how to condition myself to finish that scramble, instead of like, and just like jiu-jitsu, you'll learn when you can kind of take a breath and when you need to scramble. It's an art, but you will figure it out. And really, jiu-jitsu's, man, so much like life and business, because you got to pace yourself, and you need to be like water. Josh Schultz says that, to me. He said, man, be like water. Don't just be tense. Wait for me to make a move and then react, And that's exactly like that. You need to kind of work your ass off and then back up a little bit. Work your ass off, back up a little bit. I was full steam ahead the whole time. And you'll leave a lot of damage in your wake when you do that. And you'll miss a lot of stuff. You did, I did. You're learning it earlier than I did. My parents would tell me this. I mean, I just ignored them.
Yeah.
And so, now I really try hard to just enjoy myself right then and there when I'm doing something. But I think it's one of the reasons I've been able to get even more done is when I have to get after it for something, I have a whole gas tank of energy to go for it, to finish that project. And I make sure my people take time. I have employees who are driven. The president of my orthopedics, I have to tell her, look, you leave town. Leave town or you're fired. Not jokingly, I'm not going to fire her because I'd have to do her job, And you talk about managing all the details and organization. I'd have to do all that. I can do it, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So she has to relax and then delegate what you need to delegate. So this is another important thing. If you try to do everything and don't trust other people, and you got to let them fail. You got to make mistakes so they learn how to do their job. If you don't delegate, you can't grow. I tell my junior guys, they're like, oh, I want to get more clinics under my belt so I can have more income. I said, who's going to replace you? Well, I don't have anybody. Well, then how am I going to advance you? Mm-hmm. Because most people don't want somebody that can take their job because they're worried that person will take their job. But in a growing organization, that's the only way you can move up. So I tell them, find who's your replacement. If I move you to the next level, you got to have somebody do that job. So you've got to develop people that can do your job, or at least the operational part of the job that can be replaced. Sometimes the founder is very difficult to replace, but operationally you can be replaced for that. You know what I'm saying? For the nitty gritty, the daily day, those kind of things. And that person can then gain more and more skills. And then you give them another, let's say you're doing an academy, they develop that skills. Now you own that academy. They train somebody below them. They can take that job. They can go open another one and they can get a piece of two of them now. And you now own two of them. And, you give out, profit sharing and all that, so everybody's motivated. Right. So if you can't do it unless somebody else can do it. You cannot grow. You can't scale a business. So a lot of people will try to do everything to save money. You can't do that. You got to spend money to make money.
Got to spend money to make money.
I tell people, I'm the laziest orthopedic surgeon you'll ever know. And it's funny because people know me, they you've worked your ass off. But when I finally figured it out, I basically, even when I was super busy, when I was telling you about I saw all those patients, I was done by 4:30 or 5 every day.
Wow.
And then I'd go to the gym and do all that. I'd be tired because it was intense.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of people around me that would do a lot of the other stuff that I didn't need to be doing. Mm-hmm. That, there's high margin, important things that you should do. Everything else should be pushed out to somebody else.
Yeah. It's funny how you say, because I said it the other day and somebody kind of made a joke. It's how we say we're lazy.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of lazy. Because you told me something, and you can share it whether you want it or not. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about your surgeries.
Right.
And you were telling me the number that you've done is more than most of the surgeons put together or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say you're lazy when you've done more surgeries than most of these people.
Yeah, I've already done, a lot of the guys that I finished residency with, if I quit today and they practice 20 more years, they might catch up.
That's wild.
Yeah. Just shoulders alone, I've done 8,000 shoulders.
Yep, that's the number.
Wow. Yeah. And I've done more than anybody in the Mid-South by not even close. Second best is probably half. But I was efficient.
Yeah.
And what I mean by lazy is like, I tell everybody in the OR, I'm like, I get 2 rooms, I go back and forth, I'd have somebody close. The stuff I don't need to be doing, I don't need to be doing. But I'd say, guys, let's just get through today and let's get out of here. And I bonus everybody to get done quicker and all that. So I motivate everybody to be done so we can take all that, suck the air out of the time wasted. Mm-hmm. As we all should, let's get this done. It's a lot of work, but wouldn't we all rather be doing something else after this? Now, I love the surgery part. But in clinic, what I would do, and this is probably a good example of where I had PAs, and they can see patients and bill for patients and all that. But what I found out what patients really wanted from me, when I would see all these patients and they would tell my front desk, like, Dr. Mitias is so nice. He spent a lot of time with me. Like, how? I didn't. I spent the important time with them. So it took me a little while. I found out that the patients did not count the time they spoke to me. When they're talking to me, they don't count that time. The time they count is when I'm sitting down talking to them and telling what we're going to do and answer the questions, right? And that takes just a few minutes. So what I would do is, and we developed this process, which is unique at the time. I think other people have tried to copy it, but so we call a patient back. The girl that would take that patient back would talk to them on the way to the room, like, hey, how you doing? How's your leg? So they tell the girl putting him in the room. Then they go get an x-ray, and the x-ray tech was trained. And I said, look, get to know these people. Most of them are great people. And they'd start talking to them about their injury, their leg, or their family and all that. So now they've talked to 2 people. Then my PA would walk in, and they'd go through everything with them. Say, hey, well, he's going, examine them, lay hands on them. So now they've talked to 3 people. They're done talking to people. They come out, PA gives me a quick rundown. Hey, this lady slipped in the ice, twisted her knee, has a meniscus tear. That's all I need to know. So, and if I know them, I'll talk to them about their family and all that. If not, I'll try to learn something about them while I'm talking to them, so that when they come back, I can ask about their trip they went on or whatever. And I'd go in the room and I'd tell this lady, I said, yeah, I'm Dr. Mitias. Brad told me you twisted your knee in the ice. Why don't you get up here and let me check that? And I'd poke on it and I'd say, yep, Brad's right. You have probably a meniscus tear. And I would I'd be sitting down now. And I'd say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. You might need surgery, hopefully not. We're going to put an injection in your knee. I'm going to send you to a visit of physical therapy, give you some anti-inflammatories. I'm going to see you in a week. If you're doing great, we're done. If you're still hurting, we might get an MRI. And I said, 80% of these people just need injection, you're good. So you have good odds. And I'd be like, okay, doc, thanks. Yeah, so you have any questions? They're like, no. I'd walk out and everybody else would do everything else. They put the injection in, they fill out the chart, do all this stuff. So that's the part that's important. Everything else is important, but is not necessary for me to do. And if I try to do all of it, I can't see all these patients.
Right.
Now they have to wait. And that irritates them way more than a short visit.
Yeah.
And they really, at that point, they think they've probably been there 30 minutes, 45 minutes. They think they've talked to so many people, they've been talking for 30 minutes. They're ready to get the fuck out of there. They got jobs to go to, So that's how my system worked, and it worked great.
All right.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
It helps you get through a lot. Being efficient, just like jiu-jitsu, right? You want to be as efficient as possible. I tell people all the time when I roll, like, I'm a lazy guy in jiu-jitsu.
I've seen your heart rate. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to do as minimal as possible to win, to survive. So it's funny the way people look at it, like everybody's term of lazy is different. We're not talking about the lazy that we see in most of the population today, Yeah. With that kind of lazy, man, you're not going to achieve anything.
Right.
Anything. But I want to shift over to fear, right? Everybody feels fear. And going after your dreams, your goals, fear sets in, doing something big. And I tell people, man, Fear is, false expectations appearing real, and what do you do? Like, do you just stop there? I tell people, are you going to just stop and let your dreams go to waste? You're going to just throw them in the trash because you're afraid to ask? You're afraid to do something? All it is just ask. That's all you need to do is ask, or make the jump at the end of the day. And if you don't succeed, you don't succeed. Now, I'm not telling you to go make the jump with, $1 million. And if you don't succeed, you lose $1 million. No, sometimes you have to do that, but you have to take all the calculated. You have to make all the calculations.
Just so you know.
So what do you tell people that are allowing fear to stop them? Because I say on the other side of fear is whatever you want. The relationship, the business, the goals, the fitness, the money, the happiness, whatever it is, it's on the other side of fear. But you have to get to the other side of it. As long as fear in front of you, you're not going to get there. That's plain and simple. That's it. So what do you tell people when it comes to facing those fears?
I tell most people, most fears are unfounded. Most of your fears are things that you have just made up. Have you ever, anxiety depression is about the past, and anxiety is about fear of the future. And the reason, most fears are totally just don't happen. And if you bring what do they call it? There's a Southern term where you borrow worry from the future. Don't do that. Press on. Have a plan. You got to always have a plan. Like, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to mitigate a chance at failure. But fear is literally something you have made up. And it's easy for me to say because now you got to figure out what that fear is, and is it a real fear? Sometimes it is. But most fear is truly anxiety. It's about something in the future you've dreamed up. What if?
What if?
What if I fail? And then you're worried about, and a lot of it is ego. So what if I fail? What will people think? Well, that's the first thing you got to give up. You got to stop worrying about what other people think. And you got to stop worrying about your ego, because you might fail and you need to pick your shit up and go. Once again, we're going to roll this back to jiu-jitsu. I constantly, and one thing I've noticed about myself, and people say this, I push the edges on things. I want to constantly test myself, get out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I want to get out of it. I want to roll with somebody better than me. I want them to beat me, figure out how do I get around that now? Because you're not going to get better if you don't get out of your comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone means overcoming a certain amount of fear about ego, about failure, and sometimes there's real fear, like you should be worried about something, but most of the time you know what that is. When you have this vague fear and you cannot pinpoint it to exactly what it is, ignore it. You cannot control it probably anyway. You're not going to control what other people think. So who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That was one of my great gifts. I don't care. I don't. I've always been like that. I think that came from taking some shit when you're younger, and getting your feelings hurt about being Syrian or whatever it is, and then you realize, so what? I don't give a shit what these people think.
Yeah.
But it is almost always egocentric, meaning it is something you have made up, and you're trying to make an excuse not to do it.
Mm. That's very powerful. Especially what you said at the end, toward the end, is don't care what people think.
Yeah.
Who gives a damn, right?
Yeah.
I always, when I talk to Gio about this, is like, people think I'm saying this from like a tough guy perspective or whatever. It's not that I'm being a tough guy, but like, if I cared what people think, what is that going to help me with? Right? Like, of course, if I'm doing crazy stuff, yeah, I should probably care. Like, if I'm being disrespectful, if I'm being low life, or I'm not following my principles, ethics, and morals, then yeah, I probably should care a little bit, because it can ruin my business. But outside of that, like on my journey of getting to where I am just now, right? I hope even further in life later on. But it's like, if I cared what people thought, if I listened to the people that told me don't open the academy, me and you would not be sitting here right now. I would not be sitting with Gio. I would not be a black belt. I would not have all these friends that I've made from the academy. Some of my best friends are from my jiu-jitsu academy. If I listened to them, this would have not happened. There's not a single person, by the way. Not a single person. Even Professor Border, I had to convince him. Not a single person agreed or pushed me to open my academy. Not one. Not even the closest people to me, my family. Not a single one said it. They all told me don't do it. And they call me crazy. And what are you going to do? You're going to make a living off teaching classes, jiu-jitsu? And so if you listen to people, man, if you care what they think, you're not going to get far.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to impress people. And as long as you're trying to impress people, and we talked about this on previous podcasts, is as long as you're trying to impress people, you're only going to get so far. At the end of the day, if you want to achieve the unachievable, you want to get those goals, those dreams, the life that you want, who gives a damn? That's it. It's as simple as that. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. But that's where that thick skin comes from, And growing up, I think, like you said, is like taking the crap early on. Like, I used to sit out on the street and in the middle of Arkansas, and everybody's white.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And
Arkansas white.
and I had Arkansas white, and I'm over here. I had long hair at that time, and I had a big beard, and I looked rough around the edges, and people throwing all these names out, and it's like, at first I used to get pissed, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, bro, some of these guys, like, the merchandise that I have are worth more than their car.
Yeah.
And you're yelling at me? Like, I'm out here hustling, trying to make a living. And the best you can do is try to knock somebody down. And at that point, I had nothing. Like, I had $0 in my pocket. And I was like, man, that's low life.
I can't imagine being a street vendor. That even the toughness you have to develop to sell street stuff on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. That's amazing.
And I think it's because of that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad. Like, people looked at it like, really, you're a street vendor? And I'm like, man, that's all I knew. That's all I had. I couldn't get a store. I couldn't get a storefront. I remember being in on Jackson and Orchie in North Memphis. And same thing. Is people would call me Mexican, and they thought I would take offense to it. Of course, I don't want to be called Mexican. I love Mexicans, but they would use it as like a racial slur, or like trying to kick me down, and like, get out of here, amigo, or get out of here, Osama bin Laden. I'm like, bro, like, you're a bum. You're yelling at somebody that's hustling. And I think over the years, you built that grittiness and that thickness of your skin. And thank God for that, because you tell somebody today, I call them snowflakes.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Definitely. Yeah.
Everybody today is a snowflake, man. Like, they can't take any hard feelings. They'll break down. You're not politically correct and so forth. But Gio, what do you got to say on fear?
I think that is it's very true, like Mr. Johnny. Like you said, false expectations appearing real. And if you go after your fears, like at first, you'll realize that it was all in your mind, And it's just like that. We always say it's like your mind is your biggest asset and your biggest weapon. So it's like the cheesy cliche like movies, right? Like, it's not a fight against my opponent, it's a fight against me. And I think that's true. If you conquer your mind and yourself, you conquer everything else you want to conquer.
100%. That's actually very wise, Gio. You're a young guy to be speaking like that. I was still at your age. What are you, 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was busy just trying to get into the next party, or I was doing med school, but I was not concerned with, the greater. That's what's different now. A lot of these young guys have like access to the wisdom that I didn't have access to. And it was there, but it wasn't as easily available. You actually had to read a philosophy book instead of listening to a podcast. But I think that's what the big advantages they have. It's easier to digest, and it's these great principles. And that's how people used to learn it. They used to learn it from a mentor, or literally, so the Stoic philosophers, my favorite philosophers, the ones where it's really an operating system of how to manage your life. Stoic came from the word stoa, from porch. They would sit on the porch and they would talk to educate the young guys. And so a lot of these podcasts, A lot of these things, everybody's kind of like, well, it's not the same as going to college. It is. Yeah. It's what we used to do. It's just now over a different medium.
Yep.
You get it, you know, there's not as much interaction, I get it, but you're getting to listen to these people who have an immense amount of knowledge, easily accessible. You can read it in a book. It's always easier to get that transmitted by verbally. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the way we're wired. You know, we pass down knowledge for thousands of years verbally.
Yep.
That's how we're wired. So it's easier to do that, you know.
It's funny that you talk about how it came from porch. Yeah. And like I told you, I think sometimes I talk to people and when I'm talking to Gio, I'm like, I'll call somebody a kid. And I remember Gio did it once, or Somali does it, because I talk to them a lot. Like, we'll get a cup of coffee and we'll talk for hours. And they're like, bro, he's 27. Like, you're talking about a grown man. I'm like, damn, like, that's my bad. Yeah. I didn't mean it that way, you know? But it's funny because I tell people, like, I'm always thinking I'm like 50, 60 years old, you know? And I always imagine myself like, you know, grayish, whitish beard. I'm sitting on the porch in my rocking chair, and I'm speaking to young folks. I don't know why. It pops in my head. I act like I'm old. I'm not old. And I don't have as much wisdom and experience as you. You know, that's why I love being around you. And like I said, you're the black belt in my life. But for guys that are around me and I sit there and I talk to them, especially the younger generation for me, that, you know, 18, 20, 22, 23-year-old, 24-year-old, I feel like they're super young compared to me. And so I sit there and I talk to them. I said, my goal is to give you my experience that I've learned in the last 12 years and do it in a few months. Condense it.
Right.
You know, you don't have to go 12 years. That's why I talk to people like you. I don't want to wait until I'm 60, 70, 80 years old to learn what you learn. I want to shut up, and people are going to say, Coach, you didn't talk a lot on the podcast. Yeah, I got a black belt in front of me in business and wisdom and entrepreneurship experience. I'm going to shut up and listen because I want to condense it. And so when I talk to people, I'm trying to condense the last 12 years in just a short amount of time to give you all my mistakes, to give you what I learned so you can learn from it. And most of these guys that like I said, I graduated, like, you learn so much in school. But the school of life, the school of hardship, the street, you know, that you can't learn that in universities. Right. You know, and if you go through that and experience it firsthand, that's a different kind of education, different kind of wisdom that you learn that you'll sit around some guys, like I'll sit around some 40, 50-year-olds and I'm like, bro, you're dumb as a rock. You know, you have no wisdom. Like, you're just book smart, you know, and that can only get you so far.
And that book smart's worthless.
Exactly.
So you're good at your job. Great.
That's it.
That's not wisdom.
Mm-hmm. You can't apply it. Yeah. What I learned is what you learn from the street, what you learn from running your own business and working at a young age and going through the hardships. Most of those life skills that you learned, you can apply it everywhere. It doesn't matter what business. You're going to have to do some adjustments, but you can apply it in almost any business. When I first opened the academy, it was tough. I'll be honest with you. I mean, people would make a joke. I had my big beard, crazy hair. I'm in Carville, you know, and I had to make some adjustments. Yeah. I had to clean up pretty quick. Yeah. You know what I mean? It took me about a year to learn that. After that first year, that was it. Thank God, you know. But if I didn't learn from the street and the wisdom, my engineering degree wouldn't make my academy successful. It was not enough. You know what I mean? And so you have to go through that, man. You have to go through the hardships. You have to get that thick skin. I want to switch over. We can start wrapping it up here in a minute. I want to switch over your jiu-jitsu journey.
Right.
So, I was talking to Mr. Johnny Mitias the other day. And I was talking to him. He's like, man, I'm trying to get so-and-so in here. And I told him, I said, one thing and I told you this last week. So one thing that I've noticed with successful people, it's hard for them to stay in jiu-jitsu. It's hard for them to even try. Because they're a black belt in their business, financially, you know, mentally, you know, with education. They're a black belt. Now you have to start from the bottom. You're a brand new spanking white belt that's getting smashed every single day, you know? And so what have you learned from your jiu-jitsu journey?
So, boy, I got to tell you, it's a lot life. And, you know, the hardest thing was there was the physical exertion. We already talked about how deconditioned I was. That was hard, but I knew I could get that. It would take time, but I would get it. The humility of getting smashed, right? But that was, part of it. Really, I like being out of my comfort zone. And if you want to get good at something, you got to put your ego aside and you got to enjoy the suck, because you're going to suck. Whatever new thing you do, you're going to suck at it. And I was at that point where I knew I wanted to be good at this. And boy, of course I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm arrogant by nature. I just hide it well. And I have a huge ego. I try to control it. But with jiu-jitsu, I knew I was going to have to just suck at it. But I wanted to get better faster. And that's where I got, talked you into coaching me, and I got better. Still took a while, and still going to take a while. But I'm not natural, and that sucked too.
Yeah.
I knew immediately that I'm not a natural, and that just kind of hurt my soul. And I was just going to have to grind this down, break it up into small pieces, figure out every small piece, and get good at it. I wish I was a natural, but I figured that out pretty quickly. Watching the other guys who started with me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not that. Yeah, they're 20 years younger, so what? But I don't think it's even an age thing. I think you're either a natural at something or you're not. I was a total natural at surgery. I mean, it came to me, auto racing came to me very easily. So you got your things you're really good at, and then there's things you're not going to be good at. And jiu-jitsu, I will be good at it.
You will.
It's just going to be a time thing. So it's exactly like doing anything else in life. I really didn't have any trouble setting aside my ego with it. I don't know why. Maybe it's just an age thing. But I also knew I had to if I was going to get good. And I'm more focused on the long term, that delayed gratification. So I never, that part I never had an issue with. I'm trying to think of where that and I'm normally pretty good about putting that aside and learning something, because I know you have to do that. And that's just part of, and there's an actual letter written by Seneca about how to get better at something. And he basically said, if you do not accept the fact that you are going to be inferior at something for a long period of time, you'll never get good at it. And I just know I'm not going to be. And there's going to be guys that are always going to be better than me forever and ever, no matter how hard I train. But I don't think so. Yeah. I think I can catch. I think I can get there.
I think you
have
can
to grind it out.
Yeah, I think you're grinding it out, but also I think you're humble enough. Yeah. Which is hard to see. Yeah. I told you I don't see this often, right? And so I think you have to have humility, man. In jiu-jitsu, you have to. Yeah. If you don't have it, you will be humble regardless. A lot is gonna hurt a lot more too. So I think you're ahead of the curve by. I know you have that competitive drive, but it's like, hey, I'm willing to put this aside to learn more, to absorb this, right? I want to be a sponge. And it's funny because guys are like, we had a new guy come in, and I was rolling with one of the big guys in the class. It was one of the Ennis brothers. And I was talking to somebody else. And I hate doing this because I'm not trying to disrespect them. Yeah. But I was having a conversation, like telling people bye and all this. And this guy was cracking a joke, like, man, you're over here like goofing off and this bro with this giant.
Chewing gum.
The chewing gum thing is a habit since I've had since the white belt. I didn't mean that.
Yeah. No. I never took it that way. I just thought it was impressive. You're just easily chewing gum, and I'm trying to kill you. And you're just chewing gum, going about your business, wandering. Your mind's wandering. I think you were doing accounting in your head, trying to figure out what you were going to eat later on that day. Yeah.
But I tell people, like, man, they're like, Coach, I'm trying to, like, the white belt, I'm trying to, like, sweep and do all this that you're doing. I'm like, bro, you know how many times I've gotten submitted over the last 10 years? Like, you need to get submitted 10,000 times. I have the mindset of 10,000. I keep talking about it. Bruce Lee, you have to have 10,000 reps, almost 10,000 reps in your surgeries, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're a black belt surgeon. I trust coming to you, right? And so it's a journey, man. It's a 10-year journey, 15-year journey, whatever it is. You have to put the time in. There is no success. Some people do it overnight. Some people do it fast, right? And it's not necessarily overnight. Some people see quick success. But for the most part, this is a long thing. Like you told me, we were talking, and you're like, man, I really hit it off the last 10, 15 years, whatever the number you gave me, right? And jiu-jitsu, same thing. It's a matter of time where once you get ahead of that curve, even though somebody may be ahead of you, because the way you think, because your obsessiveness as well, and your competitiveness and your drive, you can get ahead of that curve faster than them. You're going to surpass them, like in the racing, right? So you're going laps and this guy's ahead of you, and you start beating him on the curve. And once you come around that curve, you're gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same idea in jiu-jitsu, you know? And so it's interesting to see you, a year and a half maybe?
I'm a year in now.
Year now. You know, pretty consistent year.
Yeah.
You know, so where do you see yourself in jiu-jitsu in 5 years?
Boy, I'm hoping I'm accelerating my skill set quicker as I get, and I can spend more time at it. Mm-hmm. But I hope I am bumping on a purple belt by then. Maybe high grade blue, somewhere in there.
I see that.
Right around purple, getting close to it. I'm hoping I can accelerate my process now that I'm getting the very basics starting to hit me.
Yeah.
Like starting to get it.
Yep.
But going back to going back to how jiu-jitsu and business, you're right. Like you gotta get submitted. And I had when I was doing the Red Med, and we're doing this big cleanup operation, the urgent care clinics, and one of my vice presidents asked me a question, and I answered, this is what you need to do for this situation. She goes, how do you know that? I said, well, I've made every mistake in the book once, and most of them twice, just to make sure I did it wrong the first time. That's what it takes. You get submitted by a mistake. Oh shit! Don't do that again. Don't give them your arm. That kind of. You got to do these things. So you got to get. You're right. You got to get submitted a lot. You got to make a lot of mistakes to get better at something, and try to learn as much as you can from other people, so you don't keep make a mistake. But they're going to happen.
Yeah.
So you got to adjust and then learn from it. And that's with jiu-jitsu. It's the most addictive thing I've ever done. Racing is very addictive, but it's harder to do. You got to get a car, you got to go to a track, you got to get it ready, you got to do all this stuff. Here I can just put on a gi and come on.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to me in the intensity.
Yeah.
In my mind, and competitiveness is fun, and there's tiny things you do to get a lot better.
Yeah.
And or to win a race. And also what's similar with auto racing is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yep.
And trying to, if you're tense on the steering wheel and you're got the red mist, they call it, where you're, the charging bull, you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
And it is almost identical to that. You got to be relaxed and smooth. I picked that up very quickly in racing for some reason, maybe because you're going to crash the car and possibly die.
Yeah.
It has been a lot harder with jiu-jitsu to learn to calm your breathing and not be tense.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I adapted the reactions of a car very quickly. I mean, I remember I took literally 8 years off and got back into it. And all the guys I used to race with, I beat them all. First day I went back. And they're like, fuck, Mitias just shows up, 8 years. He's still the fastest guy. I'm wired that way. Jiu-jitsu is not going to be that. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is going to be, if I took 2 weeks off, like I'm about to do, I dread to think what I'm going to forget. And so it's not, that was natural. This is not for me.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I don't know why, but I'm going to, it will be, but I will get there.
It's going to come down to your mindset that you have, the will and the determination to keep going. If you have the will and you have the determination to keep going, that's going to get you half of the way there, more than half of the way there, And because you're going on a 2-week trip, we're going to have a fun training session today.
Oh, yeah. I need it.
But a lot of the skills that you learn in jiu-jitsu, I tell people you apply them in life, in business, in life.
100%.
So many of them, man. And like you said, you're understanding the basics. And once you really understand the basics and the fundamentals, you're going to get past that curve. Then you're going to pick it up. And I tell people, like I said, I was talking to the 6 a.m. class this morning. And I said, man, the difference between like white belts and higher rank upper belts is like we do the basics. We just do it at a higher level. That's it. There is no, people are looking for this secret pill, this magic sauce. And I'm like, bro, it's doing the basics, doing the same thing over and over again, doing the fundamentals, but you do it at a higher level. Yeah. That's it. There's no secret to it. You know, and business is the same way. Once you get the basics down and you have your system, now you operate at a higher level. You do it on 100 clinics, 100 storefronts.
It's funny you say that. So I remember calling my partner. We had 6 clinics. And I called him and I said, man, I don't know if I could do this. This is so hard. He started laughing at me. He goes, you know, I have no idea what we're about to do. You know, we're about to blow this up. And this is just, you're going to do 100 of these clinics. Or 50 of these clinics. And I was like, shit, I don't see how that's going to happen. But it happens. You know, you learn and you learn, you know, I learned from him. I learned from experience and you get better.
Yep.
You know, and then now it's like, oh, yeah, 100 clinics, no problem.
Yep. Yeah. You got the basics.
Yeah. You know, the fundamentals are wired in. And now I just got to just keep, you know, getting the reps in and practicing that and staying on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got submitted. That's part of business. You're not going to be an overnight success. You're not going to have tons of money overnight, right? You're going to lose. You're going to get submitted. You start repping those basics, fundamentals over time, rep. And then with time and your constant repetition, it starts paying off. Yep. You know, it's time thing. This is not overnight, guys. You have to understand it takes time, you know? And for a 57-year-old successful man, that's a black belt and other things, but a white belt in jiu-jitsu, what advice would you give? Because it's hard, man. I told the guy today that walked in, I was like, it's hard. The hardest thing is to walk through the doors. What would your piece of advice be for that guy that's on the fence, wanting to train jiu-jitsu, but can't pull the trigger?
I would tell him that you are going to get both mentally and physically challenged to the point that you had never understood before. And you think you've had it before. You think you've been challenged before. You've never been challenged like this. I've never felt that kind of pressure before in my life.
Really?
To survive and to get through. And when you come out of it, you will be so much better and stronger, physically conditioned and mentally conditioned you never thought was possible. I know I really do think I've always been mentally tough, but I really feel like I'm a lot more mentally tough now after a year of this. Physically, for sure, conditioned, I got it. Yeah. I was so bad, I could only go up from there, from the conditioning. But mentally, I actually still, and I feel much more at peace after I'm doing it. You know, the calmness, because I just survived battle. Yeah. And I think that's what I really need. I love is battle. And I think I've sought out all these battles because battle, iron sharpens iron, right? You get better. Whether racing is so competitive. Off-road racing, where I did the Baja, was super competitive. Weightlifting, not so much. That's why I really just kind of did it, because I could do it by myself anytime I wanted to do it. And, but the battle, that's to get through that. And even if you get submitted, you survived. You survived that day. You sucked, but you survived. Now the next day comes, and you learn, and you get better. I think that's amazing to me. I mean, and you can see the guys that get obsessed with that, in the gym. They're obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with it. And I don't know if they understand why they're obsessed with it, but I think that's what it is. You need that battle, because it tests your mind, your body, and your belief in yourself, your soul. Mm-hmm. And when you're down, I am breathing. I am dying. I'm on the ground. I'm trying to survive. They're on top of me. I'm just thinking, and at first it would happen very quickly, and I'd gas. And now it's like last night was 4 rolls to get to that point. And but I keep pushing. Now I want to get to where I can do it all day for an hour straight. That's what I'd love to do. Be able to do multiple rolls for an hour straight and survive. And you keep pushing that end point. That end point does come, but you want it as further down as you can go. And you want to be able to overcome that when you think you've got nothing left. There is always something left.
Always.
And there's guys in the gym, and you mentioned, I think the one I see that always has something left is Johnny Mitias. I always have a lot of respect. I tell him that. He always, like, no matter, John is one of those guys. His next breath, he could know he's going to have a heart attack. He's not going to give a shit. He's going. And me, I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to stop right here and let him just lay on me. I'd like to get to that.
Yeah.
And
you will.
And so that is amazing. There's probably other guys I just don't roll with them or see them do it, but that's impressive.
Yeah. You kind of read my mind, man, about the rolling a long time.
Yeah.
That might be the plan today.
Okay.
So you already kind of read my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you were
wonderful.
Me and you are rolling a lot today.
Okay.
No, Mr. Johnny, I appreciate your time. Last question, and we're going to wrap it up. I've taken a lot of your time, and we got to go get some jiu-jitsu training in. What is the piece of advice that you're going to give people to go after what they want? It doesn't matter what it is, what they want deep down inside, what they think about all the time, what they dream of, what they truly desire. Because, if you don't do it, you're going to live a miserable life. So what advice are you going to tell them to go get it?
So I would tell anybody that is to forget what everybody's telling you. Go do it. And it's easy to say. I'm not saying go crazy, like give up, throw away your family and your life and go to Hollywood and try to become an actor. I'm not saying that. But there's always a plan you can make to get there from no matter where you are. First, you have to stop. You have to ignore all the naysayers and the voices in your head and the irrational fear. And then there's the legitimate things you should be concerned with. Obviously the time to do something, the money to do something, the actual hard facts, not what's in your mind. And if you cannot put a fact to it, a number to it, a time to it, then it's not real. If you cannot put something substantive that's hard that you can measure, it's not real. So then the next step is, all right, how do I get there? And how much time do I need? How much money do I need? And then plan on getting there. And you can, and I'm not I'm not a burn your ships kind of guy. Like, don't burn everything behind you. There's a way to keep a backup. Some people, they always say burn the ships, ignore it all. I don't know about that. I think then you start making irrational choices where you're giving up a time frame then. You're setting a schedule that's not realistic. So you can always have your kind of backup and then press forward. I'll give you an example. The Google guys, they developed Google while they were getting their PhDs. And everybody around them said, man, you got something spectacular here. They were doing it in a garage. They were getting funding. You got something spectacular. You need to devote all your time to this and quit your PhD. And they were like, oh, hell no. We're going to finish our PhDs because if this all goes to shit, I got my PhD. Mm-hmm. But they still worked on Google and got it done and got their PhD. That's what I'm talking about. It's about measuring what you can do against what you have, what the objectives are for where you are. There's all kinds of examples of people that worked a job and wrote I'm going to use the Hollywood example because those always seem superfluous and like, why are you doing that? Let's say you have a job and you want to write a screenplay. Well, you don't have to go to Hollywood to do that. You can do that while you job. The great writers of the 17th and 18th century had jobs. The great inventors that created something spectacular had jobs, regular jobs. They were clerks. They had boring jobs, but they gave them enough time and mental energy to do what they wanted to really do. You can do this. You have to plan and measure accordingly. And if you cannot measure it, it's probably an irrational fear. Wow. Probably not real.
Yeah. That's powerful. Mr. Johnny, I appreciate you for your time. Thank you for your time and all the wisdom. This is the best podcast we've shot.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I've got to thank you guys, Gio, you, Ben, all the training I've gotten. Man, it's the greatest thing. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. It's a blessing for me. It's improved my life dramatically. I'm not saying that I'm not sore all the time, but it has improved my life dramatically. And this is the most amazing thing I've ever done in terms of anything physical and mental, actually, that I've ever done. It's amazing to me. I appreciate it. I'm so glad I walked in your gym. So glad.
Appreciate you, Mr. Johnny. I feel the same about you. All the wisdom, all the help, everything you do to help us out, teach us a thing or two, learn us a thing or two, and all the help you do at the academy too. Like you help us a lot, like I said, with your clinics. Ortho Express, guys, is our sponsor. So that's a big blessing just alone, you know. So thank you so much. This episode is my favorite episode. I can't wait to get it out for everybody. Episode 27, guys, with Dr. Johnny Mitias. I hope you guys enjoy it. Subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us. Always pleasure having the number one co-host, Giovanni Jimenez, on. Guys, like always, sharpen your sword physically and mentally. This is the way to succeed for success, okay? There's no other way about it. You have to get up and iron sharpens iron every day, okay? Do something physically, do something mentally to better yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your country. And I'll catch you on the next episode of Sharpen Your Sword Podcast. Peace out.